Welcome to Bingewatchpodcast.com, where we, just like you, love to find a show on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, iTunes, or wherever, and watch it as fast as we can. Music is provided by Fall into Flux, off of their album From the Outside Looking In. Is that right? We are recording.
Hey, what's up, man? So Ron is digging into.
Let's see what the sound of a chip being eaten sounds like on the microphone with this amplitude here.
Foley on stage one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's a Greek style chip too.
Yeah, it's a Lay's wavy.
That's what I told Ron in the kitchen.
Greek
I said
Zatzitsky.
It's loaded with the European debt.
That's awesome. So, what were you were about to say something, Paul?
About what?
I don't know.
Oh, about.
Luckily, I'm not in your head.
Right before you started recording, we was talking about. You said that Johnny Fever from WKRP in Cincinnati. He turned 83. Of course.
It may be 73. I may be exaggerating.
Leonard Nimoy passed away this past week on Friday.
Was he? He was 83, right?
He was 83. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was born the same year my dad was, 1931.
God, that's old.
Yeah, and I think about that because my dad passed away over 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
I was like, wow, my dad would have been 83. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty old, man.
Yeah.
When I saw that come up, and I mean instantly, like I keep up at work. I have kind of CNN running on the background, and
Yeah.
basically I'm trying to keep up with what's going on with ISIS or whatever during the course of the day. So I clicked over there, and it said Leonard Nimoy was dead. I was like, damn, I just saw him on some interview show a couple months ago.
Well,
and he looked old.
Yeah, well, and
he was still like very vibrant and whatever.
Yeah, he was a huge creative person. I got to, I knew a little bit of background on him that there was, after the initial TV series, there was that, man, is this who I'm going to be for the rest of my life? But then, he eventually came to terms with it because he was an artist, he was a photographer, director. He directed Star Trek 4, I believe it was.
A music country recording artist.
Yeah.
Yes, I heard that
He had
song.
good pipes.
Yeah, and it's funny because he really had come to terms with it, and
Yeah, he wrote 2 books. He wrote the first book shortly after the series ended, and he felt like he was typecast. He wrote "I Am Not Spock,"
right.
and then about 10 years after that, he finally realized, hey,
When the gravy train rolled in,
and the movies, and
maybe I am Spock.
yeah. Well, his second book was called "I Am Spock."
Right. Well, and that's the thing that a lot of the it
It
seemed
should
like
have been Spock I Am.
That's more Yoda.
green eggs and ham said Spock I am. That's the thing that it sounded like from most of the comments from the media on it is that he had come to terms with sort of the duality of the half man, half alien, half Vulcan nature of the character, and it sort of fit him a little bit. And there was tributes from the astronauts up in the space station.
Yeah, I saw that
doing
photo
this
today.
over the Earth,
the Vulcan salute.
Live
Yeah.
long and prosper. Yeah, so
Super cool. So I don't know if you
Brian
guys
said we're not talking about that.
No,
right?
we are talking about this, but I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter and Facebook yesterday.
Because you can binge watch Star Trek.
Which I did go back and watch. I think the first season, and it's still pretty good, man.
Yeah,
it's hokey and it's 60s,
a little, but
the
it
story is
holds up
still pretty good.
Yeah, it holds
Well,
up
and
pretty
you
good.
think about the time that came out. I mean, a lot of the stuff with race relations and things like that. It was, and sexuality on TV. It was really ahead of its time.
And Shatner was banging everything. So that's where I'm going. I don't know.
He had his own price line, and he said it.
I don't know if you guys saw on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff yesterday. So I feel I love Shatner in many, 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 many ways. I love Denny Crane,
The
Star
Shat.
Trek.
Denny Crane.
I could deal without T.J. Hooker.
Yeah.
Hooker. Damn near killed him.
So
That was just a stepping stone.
he announced yesterday via Twitter that he would not be making Nimoy's funeral because he had already previously agreed to speak at a Red Cross event. I think it's Red Cross. Something like that.
Oh, what a jerk move.
Dude, I was just like, so that proves everything that everybody that's ever said anything negative about him, that he really like is all about Shatner, and that you know, there's no it's Shatner, and then there's 500 other slots, and then there's some other person, right?
You said slots, right?
Slots.
Yeah, not sluts.
I'm sure there's some sluts involved. But
Did he?
who
Was
would
this?
have not at that point said like, hey, one of the people I've known for the longest in my life,
Yeah.
the
One
most
of my good
important
friends.
part of my life that has fed all the rest of my career was involved with this person. I'm out. You mean you got 2 days' notice to find somebody else for a Red Cross event? I'm sure some other celebrity would have stepped up and done it.
Mm-hmm.
But Monday, which is tomorrow, I'm at Nimoy's funeral to say goodbye. If I'm going to do a Red Cross event and one of you guys passes, I will be at your funeral and I won't be at the Red Cross event.
Yeah, and seeing that's, to me, that sounds a little unfortunate because on NPR just a couple of weeks ago, there was this on the Diane Rehm show. They was talking about
She
how
does?
she talks. It was
that.
they was yeah. Come on.
That was too easy.
That was
I just want to
softball.
interrupt your train of thought,
Yeah, and you
little
did
as it may be.
And they were talking about how the Red Cross is sort of coming off like a scam. Is that they're sort of like the whole Susan G. Komen thing, where they collect all this money, but very little ever gets. It's all
For sure.
It's all awareness.
and it runs into advertising and administrative
And to pay Shatner to
costs.
talk
Yeah.
at this fucking thing, which is probably he's getting paid like $20,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
probably.
brother can't miss a payday for a dude he knew. I mean, come
Oh
on.
my god! So I just thought, one way or the other, I just thought it was a complete dick move. I mean, there should be in everybody's life a certain amount of like core people that they're passing and saying goodbye and all this stuff. Does nothing supersedes that, right?
Right.
I just thought it was a total dick thing.
Did it take a while for everybody to figure out that he did a dick move because he posted it in Esperanto? Was that?
Was that a font?
Well, apparently that was his thing that he did. He promotes the Esperanto language. He actually did a movie all in Esperanto.
What is that?
Esperanto is this man-made language that's sort of a mix of a whole bunch of things, Latin-based, Spanish-based, stuff like that.
Weird.
But he apparently...
So it's like the lost romance language.
Like a hybrid language or something?
Yeah, it's like a pigeon language, sort of.
Okay.
And he, at some point...
Ixnay, the...
Yeah, Pig Latin.
I'm out on that movie, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Last podcast, I explained why I get so bored and I can't really watch foreign films that are subtitled. The last thing that I want to do is watch a movie that is is on purpose in a language that almost no one understands. That I then have to read the subtitles.
Yeah, I remember reading a little bit and hearing a little bit about the back and forth about like with anime especially. Watch it and read the subtitles, so you can hear the original voice. And I'm like, no, I do not. I do not want to spend half my time looking at the bottom of the screen. It's like what?
Well,
just went
especially
by?
with something that's animated, that you really should be paying attention to what's on the screen because some artist has done all this work. I don't want to be looking at these damn letters on the bottom.
Well, it's
Not that I'm a big anime fan.
Well, for me, it's a processing thing too. You think about it, is that you're trying to do two things at once, and your focus it's like texting while driving, right? Or maybe,
Well,
but you know what I mean. It's that
I mostly
you're looking at the
sext
bottom.
and drive.
You think about
texting's better.
the rule of thirds with like how you compose things for
Right.
cinema,
Right.
And something is happening up here.
Well, it's
And
like
then you're
that-
down here reading this fucking.
Well, exactly.
Stuff down at
You
the
have
bottom.
to, like, if that's the point, and you realize that, let's say 50% of your audience is not going to see this or understand it in its native language. That's the ultimate shoot to protect, right? Remember when they had to have to shoot to protect because the pan and scan version was going to be so shitty when it went to VHS?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a field safe, or
Right,
something.
and so they would just keep everything pertinent in the middle because they didn't want all this pan and scan stuff. you got to keep everything pertinent to the story, like right down where the subtitles are, so that people can actually like look at the subtitles. And
what a load of crap that was, Pan and Scan.
oh god, it was terrible. And then you would get like one of my favorite movies, which is completely done in Shoot to Protect, because Cameron was such a hater of Pan and Scan. The Abyss is all Shoot to Protect. Like when you watch that movie, everything that you need to watch is within that middle piece that he knew would make onto VHS.
Right.
Because most people were at that point were going to watch that movie in VHS. He didn't want that whole Pan and Scan stuff to be done because it's awkward. Like, oh, dude starts talking. Okay, we got the camera on him. Hold on, another guy that's off camera needs to talk.
Right,
Let's
just
scroll
on the edge
over
of the screen, right?
and show him, and then scroll back. When if you were just watching it on a widescreen, it'd be the one shot the whole time.
Well, and that's something we was talking about recently with MASH being the first 5 seasons coming onto Netflix. Thinking about the 4:3 format for stuff, and I'm looking at it. It looks so,
visually, it's so awkward.
Yeah, and it's
so
like
terrible.
I got this big widescreen. Thanks, Obama.
God, Democrats fuck everything up.
Man, they're
So
in charge
I think-
of Hollywood. You think they could get something right?
It's important that we tell everybody now that Paul is drinking yet again a dirty martini,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is the dirty Sanchez martini. It's making it
So
without
deadly.
vermouth, and you could have brought vermouth this time too, but you had a week.
It's
to go
Sunday.
to the store
I only think of it on Sundays when we can't.
because I only get hammered on Sundays.
But that's the funny thing is that I think last week you talked about my old handle Dirty Sanchez, and so I'm playing this game called Boom Beach. It's a mobile
That's
game.
mobile game.
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's fun.
I
It's
had
like
it at one point.
Clash Clans, that type of game. And so after we talked about it, I had to name my character. I was like Dirty_Sanchez.
Yep. So I'm drinking a Jack and Coke.
I'm having a Kraken and Coke.
And I'm having a dirty martini. We decided this week we're going to it's a free for all.
It's a free for all.
All right, pick
And
your
I'm
drink.
completely out of meth, or I would be rocking it up in a spoon, or however you smoke meth. I don't know. I don't understand how exactly how it works.
I think
I have not completed Breaking Bad, so
I think you just rub it in your teeth, right?
okay.
It's funny because I remember you mentioned that before that you didn't really like Breaking Bad, and that really surprised me because I sort of know your taste in shows, and it's like, man, Bryan Cranston is amazing.
And it's okay. Like I like his character, and I think probably maybe the third or fourth and maybe third and fourth seasons or however long it went will probably be much more entertaining for me. But I think I talked about it in our first podcast about how like I get character transition, right, and how he's going from high school teacher to drug lord badass dude.
Right.
But God, man, hanging around for 5 years to watch that whole transition is a little long.
Man,
And so,
shouldn't that cancer kill you at some point?
well, not only that, but there would be even within an episode, and I'm thinking about the episode where he becomes whatever his name is, like where he gets his
Heisenberg,
and he goes in with that hat,
that pork pie,
and he blows that stuff up. You know, he does that chemistry experiment essentially in front of the bad guys and blows their little office up or whatever.
in front of Chuco, or
Yeah. Which Chuco has been on a bunch of other shows. He was on.
he did the version of Pocket Sand, but with something highly explosive. Instead of saying Pocket Sand and throwing it down, or doing the ninja smoke bomb trick, he blew up the top of a fucking building.
Right. So, but then the next scene, he's like at home, just his wife is fucking him up, you know, and he's just like, okay, honey. It's like, well, at some point, character-wise, who are you? Are you this badass drug dealer guy, or the guy that just goes home and gets beat up verbally by his wife?
Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing is if you think about it, that's sort of what I like the most. Jiggling
Glass
Jack over
into
here
the microphone.
is that he was doing this all for his family, and at a certain point, his ego got in the way.
Oh yeah, like almost everything.
Yeah,
that becomes
because
about him.
you know he was involved. You know, because he was a scientist and stuff, and he was involved with this company.
I don't know that we call a 8th grade or 9th grade science teacher a scientist.
He was a research scientist that was involved with this company before he became a school teacher.
Yeah.
And he passed on it, and that company went on to be the dude who he passed on it with.
No,
It's
yeah,
like
it becomes a
multi-billionaire.
bazillionaire.
Yeah, and so here comes the sour grapes train, and he finds something that he can be a dominant factor. He can make a super high quality product to put all these other fools to shame. Where's the bragging rights in that? I don't know. It's like, man, I have the best meth.
I caused more people to go to an early grave than anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about the product. Let's cook. The product that they used in the show. It was rock candy. They,
Right.
like during the breaks, they would be sitting there snacking on it.
But what's funny is I read an article maybe a year ago that now, like, a lot of the meth cookers have made their meth look like what was on the show, because then they'll think like, oh my God, it's the stuff from Breaking Bad.
Well, that goes back also.
You can't escape good marketing.
The Mafia, before the Godfather films, they didn't really act like that, but they sort of, and
own the personality,
Goodfellas and stuff like that.
So is it life imitates art, or art imitates life?
That's right. If I knew a guy named Art, I'd ask him. So
I do know a guy named Art. I'll text him here in a minute. His name is Art Dumb.
What?
Yeah. So
that was the worst segue.
It's not a segue. But what I'm trying to
think
might be. Well, so I think maybe we talk about a show now. You think?
What?
We just rambled on for 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, that's that's a good way to break up the.
We have been talking about shows.
We have, and hearing about. So, Ron, you've done, including the Lost Peel sessions. You did a discussion about Archer.
Hey, Ron, did we actually talk about the Peel sessions? What they were for people like, what the fuck's the Peel sessions?
Yeah, that time that you got really intoxicated and knocked over all the equipment, and we lost a couple hours of audio.
Oh, or the alternate theory is that you picked an SD card that wouldn't hold enough information. And either one of them.
That theory cannot be proven. That theory cannot be
proven.
Although
the first one does sound better.
Yeah. So then we talked again about Archer. So I was like, F it, I'm going to watch Archer. It's on Hulu. And it was funny. So I did watch it. I'm like through season 2.5.
Oh wow! You went bonkers. But it's only 24 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you could like literally before bed. I can watch like 8 episodes before I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So but it did prove my point why I have a difficult time watching shows like this. And it's before I go on this little bit of a mini rant. It's not highbrow. I'm not saying like, ooh, they're talking about dicks and farts and stuff. And I'm just so much beyond that. That is totally what
absolutely love that stuff.
That outlandish humor. Yeah.
It cracks me up. Blah blah blah. But what? So I'll give you my best example of like why, as I progress into shows like this, it becomes less and less funny for me. So there's a scene where I can't remember any of the characters' names, but it's the secretary for the mom on Archer.
Right.
Okay, she's laying on a desk. And she's describing this fantasy she has about this fireman choking her.
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay. I think I watched that one last night. Actually.
Okay, so
the night before last.
This may be a little bit of a spoiler for you if that is as far as you've gotten.
Can you really spoil a show like Archer?
Yeah.
So she's so she's laying on this desk, and her friend, the other lady that works at the office there, is sitting in the chair.
The HR,
the one that can't,
the HR that's really
they can't stop eating. Everyone on that show is sex crazy.
You must be having a case of the Mondays.
So she's laying on the desk, and she's like, I'm just having this dream about there's this fireman, and he's just, we're having sex, and he's just choking me. And at first, it's just like he's just choking me a little bit, and then it's getting harder and harder because firemen are really strong, and he's just, he's just choking the shit out of me, and oh my God, I'm getting so wet just thinking about it. And she looks up at her friend.
This
and goes,
is the character, not you, right?
Yeah. And she looks up at her friend and goes, "Could you choke me a little bit?"
See, now that's funny, dude.
It was fucking funny. I laughed my ass off. I thought that is like brilliant. Okay. Then it becomes they hit on something that's funny. Somebody said, "Hey, that's a funny thing." And 3 episodes later, which you'll get to here pretty soon, they build a robot to choke her. Because it's just they get on this one thing, it just like they can't get off of it.
That's the callback.
Right, yeah, you gotta have callbacks.
You gotta have callbacks, but it just now her character has become like, and there was nothing about this like previous to this deal. I mean, she was a little weird and sex crazed, but now every time she's on screen, all she talks about is like, oh, choking, hitting me, beating me up, hit me with a bat. And so, it progresses over the course of like 3 episodes, I want to say, from like this really, really funny joke to now the scientist that works for ISIS has to build a robot to choke her because that's the only way she can get off. And now that character, which was one of my favorite characters,
that sounds pretty hot.
Yeah, is totally ruined for me because every time she comes on screen, I'm like, oh, she's gonna get choked. Like she got slapped by her boss in one of the episodes down the road from where you're at, Ron, and she gets slapped and the camera pulls away and her side of her face is all red, and she's like, ow, what the. Hey, you got one more of those in you? All super funny, but then her characters become so one note that it's not funny for me anymore. Hey, and that's why sitcoms and funny shows that are like that short time period, like over a course of a season or two, they really wear me out, and I typically bail.
Well, and that's the funny thing, and we talked about that before, is that if you're watching episode after episode after episode, it can get stale. Because you're constantly I got the joke. But if you're watching it week to week, which is the way
sitcoms that just space out a little bit more.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Or you're dreaming about getting choked out. Either one.
Yeah, I think it's probably
a couple of firemen. Because I figure it's going to take a couple of them to take me down.
Well, not if you're clearing the house with your gun. What's our favorite movie? Full Metal Jacket. Choke yourself.
Yeah.
Not with my hand.
Yeah, not with your hand, with my hand. Nope. Lean into it. Don't pull my hand to you. You come to my hand.
But I would say overall, I've enjoyed it. It's been fairly funny, But it goes by so fast. It's kind of.
I just like it because it makes me laugh, and it can get ridiculous at certain points.
I think that Paul hit the nail on the head there. If you're watching it, you're binge watching it, and you're just going bam, 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 one after another. You're a lot of the jokes are repetitious, and and then you get kind of okay, they've done that, been there, done that, because you're watching them all in a row. But if you, like Paul said, if you watch them over, like they show them and they air them, a week between them, or more, depending on the TV schedule. Then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that was really funny.
Well, yeah, and a certain amount of it, human memory, it fades away.
Yeah.
And then,
what did you say? I can't remember.
What? Human memory fades away by the next week when you watch a new episode, and
that's why I've become a cyborg. Ron gets that. Oh, you haven't gotten to the cyborg part. Oh.
So Ron's sitting here. I will have a Greek chip now.
I would say so. That's kind of the downside for the show for me. The upside is I identify a little bit with Archer's character because I actually think he's playing dumb a lot of the times to annoy the people around him.
Right.
And I do that, if you know me, I do that all the time. That's one of my favorite bits is, I don't know what's going on. And then people kind of go off into their own little thing, and then that's funny to me. Like if they think I'm dumb and I don't get it, I don't understand.
It gives him a free pass on a lot of stuff.
Well, exactly. It's a free pass, but it's probably 50% of the time where the scene is kind of set up to show how stupid he is. I think he's punking the other people in the scene.
Yeah.
Well, do you read that the same way? Like he's not really that dumb.
No. Well, because he's too good of an agent to be that dumb.
He's got a certain skill set, but he is a little tiny child inside, so he always wants to get his way. He's working for his freaking
severe mommy issues.
Oh yeah.
And one of my favorite things he does is like when he feels like he's proved his point, or the other person has become so annoyed with him they will no longer interact with him. He'll be like, "Hey, Lana, Lana." And then she goes, "What?" And he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So
simplistic.
I've enjoyed the show. Again, it's kind of the same. The monotony of it gets to me over time, but I think I'll continue to watch it.
And the what's Aisha Tyler's character? His ex-girlfriend?
Lana.
Oh, that's Lana.
Yeah.
The animators love showing her in various states of undress.
Well, that and her, she's always is her stance.
She has.
She's always got her hip cocked off to the side,
right? And she's usually always in a bra, only in bra and panties.
And her profile is magnificent.
They drew her correctly. Yeah.
So I would say the other thing I find not entertaining, but kind of is like, hey, it's cool. I love the artwork, and it reminds me of the rotoscope work that was done on a Scanner Darkly, where they actually shot it and then had the computer rotoscope it all.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know anything about it. I would be interested to find out a little bit like how that is all shot, because it's fairly accurate movement and character and all that kind of stuff. And like they'll show this, the typical setup shot where it's like, oh, we're at the ISIS office, and it looks like a photo that they've taken and had rotoscoped, and now it's in the
like they used a live reference.
Yeah,
to the. I'm sure they.
Do you know anything about that? And as our resident animator, I feel
right.
like if you
Or
don't, you're
animation
really
expert.
falling down on the job.
Well, I'm not a 2D animator, so I wouldn't know. But I think so I wouldn't know. But I think
That's beneath me.
I think they're.
Dude, I'm totally working on my 4D thing, man. I can't be where
I'm folding space and time. see,
the spice must flow.
that's funny. You talk about spice. There was just a little segue.
Spice melange.
The spice is like over in Russia. You know, the whole thing with people taking bath salts and stuff like that as a drug.
They're doing that here.
Well, they're
Some
doing it
kids
here.
just died in
But
Plano doing
there's
it.
a new hybrid thing over in Russia. They were talking about this last week, and they're calling this hybrid the spice. And I'm like, does your eyes turn blue? What happens? With
So
the
one of my
spice?
favorite
Give you
things, and
clairvoyant powers?
I do this all the time at work. Like, I'll make a prediction. Like, I'll say in a month, this is going to happen.
In a month, you're going to be fired. And then that guy is
Sometimes.
surprised when he
Sometimes, and it's either a positive or a negative thing. And when I'm right, people will look at me and like, how did you know? And I'll just yell, I am the Quetzalcoatl.
and only
I get it.
Yeah, I was about to say only
Dune
it's
folks will get that reference.
see the dude in the back of the office nobody talks to. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right on, brother.
Frankie.
Which, that's a weird deal. I just saw that they're coming out, or they're thinking about remaking Dune.
Yeah,
Well,
Because-
they made it once, that really awful made-for-TV one. You know.
with Sting.
Well, I didn't know. If I had to rank them, the one with Sting, I would say I liked better than the TV one, but I liked them both. They were very, very. Who starred? It was like William Hurt. Who was all in that? The one for TV, was it Sci-Fi did it?
Could be probably.
Well, while
Yeah,
we're talking,
it was. I know it was shown in Sci-Fi, but did they actually produce it and make it?
you want to Google that while we talk about it?
I will IMDb that.
So I actually enjoyed them. I liked Lynch's version of Dune.
Yeah.
Right.
I wish he could have made it kind of like, I think what he originally wanted to make it like of course it'd been like, what, 6 hours? A 6-hour movie?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely his take on it, and I'm okay with like taking source material. I think we talked about this last time, and taking another talented person's spin on it. Totally okay. And I actually do kind of dig, like, if Dune gets remade, and this is a third, version of it, that they're drastically different. I'm on my third drink now.
Yeah, William Hurt was Duke Leto.
Yeah, with
Was he Jared Leto? Is that what you said? Oh, Duke Leto. I'm
Duke,
sorry.
yeah.
Same
Jared.
thing. Same
Who
thing.
was
who is Ginger's favorite 30 Seconds for Mars band. She loves that music.
Oh, Lord, does she hate them with a passion.
I don't get it. It feels like it's right in her wheelhouse. But
No.
so I really want to watch this. Have you guys heard of Jodorowsky's Dune movie, the documentary?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I see it here on IMDb, 2013.
Yeah, so he was the guy that actually initially wanted to make Dune, and he had all these people, including Geiger, the guy that did the Alien series, do tons of artwork, and it was going to be like super surreal, and his definitely a take on it. I can't remember the other movies. You've seen a couple of his other things, but it's the documentary. I watched it a while back. It is called Jodorowsky's Dune. It came out in 2014. Highly recommend it if you like that material, if you like how movies are put together, if you like the production, the build up, because it goes through all the artwork that they did. And when we look at the artwork, you think if like the Yellow Submarine artist went and were going to make Dune, just how funky it was and everything. And it's super like over the top, like colorful and all the stuff. That it would have been, I think, a really cool thing. So let me see if I can look up what
Is that on Netflix streaming?
No, I think you have to buy it right now.
Pirate Bay.
Hour and a half documentary.
I wonder what the odds of getting that seated on Pirate Bay are. It's like 2 people seating it.
Well, no, I would bet I'd be like if you could get into any of the. But H.R. Geiger did a lot of the
Is it Geiger? Is it Geiger or Geiger?
I don't know.
I've heard it both ways.
Well, I pronounce it Geiger because I think in last week's podcast or the podcast before, I get in the habit of intentionally mispronouncing names.
GIF or GIF?
And then I get a year down the road and I'm like,
Don't get
is
that
it the
started.
way I pronounce it or the way I've been making fun of how to pronounce
Right,
it?
the way I now prefer it.
Yeah, so let me look up. You guys have seen some of his other stuff.
Yeah, like look at this. Look at this little artwork.
Well,
here,
you may
Paul.
have
That's
seen-
very Geiger-ish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever seen El Tupo, The Holy Mountain, Tusk, the The Voice Thief, like a lot of kind of weird. El Tupo, I think, is the one that I've seen the most of, and I think that stars. It's a western, weird ass western movie.
You nailed it on the description there. Here's a piece of artwork from it that's like it really truly looks like a combination of Geiger and whoever did the Yellow Submarine
for the Beatles. Yeah, no, totally. Which I've seen that Yellow Submarine maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And the first time when I watched Jodorowsky's Dune, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name as well, but you've got it there on your phone. Take a shot at it.
Yeah, it looks like Jordan.
Hey, and shoot Brian a quick email with that so he can put it up on the show notes.
Yep. So I've got it pulled up here, but the first visuals I saw, I was like, man, that's right between Geiger, whatever his name is, and Yellow Submarine.
Right.
It would have been super cool. I would have loved to have seen that wild of a take on it. And the documentary is about how everybody was, all the artists and the actors, had a ton of people signed up to do it. They just could not find the money to get it made. But I did see an article this week that they're going to another stab at Dune. I mean, I think the sci-fi went all the way through Prophet of Dune, if I remember correctly, and then they stopped.
There was quite a few books of it, and I know that I remember when the movie the original movie first came out. My brother loved the books. He was so disappointed when the movie came out.
Right, because it's not that Lynch is in this Lynch. He's not going to go take some source material and go here's a 100%
faithful adaptation of it.
No, it's hey, here's David Lynch's take, which I love.
Yeah,
I'm totally okay with that, and I love the books. I was a huge fan of the books. I love the movie. I really liked what Sci-Fi did, which was a much more like, hey, let's dial it back and do what the books were about, kind of a little bit more straightforward. But David Lynch's take was much more along the lines of, and I don't know if he was aware of or had seen. Yeah, I'm trying. That's good you're leaning because I'm trying to talk over your chip crunching.
Jumping.
I like it though. Your Greek chips.
It adds a little ambiance.
As
he's dipping them in drachmas right now.
yeah. Every one of these chips is worth 750,000 drachmas.
That's right. Germany hates us.
Yeah. It's covered in spice.
Yeah.
By the way, the art director of Yellow Submarine, I'm assuming was in charge of the animation since he's the number one guy, was Heinz Edelman.
Yeah.
Edelman.
I don't know if he worked on that other deal, but super cool. So, like one of the Western that Jodorowsky made, El Tupo, I saw it a long time ago. It's pretty cool. It's pretty freaky. It's definitely... El Tupo descends to confront warrior masters on a transformative desert journey. He begins with a 6-year-old son who must bury his childhood totems to become a man. I mean, he's definitely got a little bit of a take and a weirdness to his films. I really liked El Tupo.
Was that mid-70s or?
Yeah, it was 68.
Oh, okay.
His kind of like wheelhouse is like mid-60s to mid-70s, and then he's gone.
So was it sort of a spaghetti western-ish?
But if you think of like spaghetti western meets, what's the guy that did all the weird Italian movies? Fellini,
yeah.
Yeah, if you think spaghetti western meets Fellini, it's along those lines.
So sort of a fettuccine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done, Paul.
Thank you. I'll be all
with a little pesto.
little presto. Little Greek chip.
Yep. So what your shirt? What shirt? What's the symbol on your shirt?
Oh, that's the logo for Real Effects, the animation studio I work for.
Okay, cool. A plug for them.
Looks like
I'll send them a bill for $1,000.
It looks like the cover of the first Audio Slave album.
It does. I was like, is that an audio thing or
maybe it's an homage?
Could be.
It could be.
Do the people? How long has Real Effects been around?
For over 20 years.
Okay. Audio Slave came after. Maybe they ripped off Real Effects.
Well, this logo's new.
Oh, well, are there we? Oh, no.
I don't know. I'm not involved.
Whoever did the logo for the company?
Prank call. I'm involved in that.
It was probably may have been an Audio Slave fan.
All right, so
just saying.
Let's do a time check here. We're at 35 minutes. You guys want to freshen up drinks and we'll come back?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just too much. We need to get you some cough drops or something.
Dude. At least I'm on the tail end of this, whatever, algae.
Tuberculosis.
Bullshit, or TB, whatever it is.
Look into my eyes. You have Ebola.
God, I think I would rather have Ebola and just get it done with than suffer like 8 years of TB.
You cannot hug your dead relatives.
I don't want to hug my dead relatives.
This gives you the Ebola.
So, Ron, you got a show you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would, briefly. I think we may have. I don't know if we discussed this on air or off, but started watching. Was a big fan. Loved the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers.
Yep.
Terrific show. Watched all of it, and we can always discuss it at some point. But the sequel, or the alternate theater of war in World War II,
Band of Sisters.
Band of Sisters, no, otherwise known as of course, Band of Brothers was about the European campaign and the Army. The Pacific is the other follow-up kind of.
Did you finally watch this?
Yes,
I've been bugging you for like 2 years.
I know, and I'm now watching. I'm just getting into it, and I'm just getting kind of started into it. Watch the first 2-3 episodes of it. And so I'm going to comment today just briefly on kind of how it.
What is it called?
The Pacific.
The Pacific. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 10-episode miniseries, basically chronicling the Marines campaign in the Pacific, obviously, of taking island by island on their way to
Iwo Jima.
Japan. Yeah.
Is that Spielberg?
Yeah, executive. Produced by Spielberg, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Hanks is in the mix.
Right, yeah.
Man,
both
he
of them.
is pulling in mad cash.
Yeah. But it's well done.
Respectfully, though.
Isn't SSKG about to go out of business?
Maybe. I know that from the animation side that that Katzenberg wants to unload DreamWorks animation big time.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's had. I say he.
You and I talked about, what was the big one that went out of business a couple of weeks ago?
It was PDI.
Yeah, PDI.
PDI, and that was part of DreamWorks. PDI has been around since the early '80s. Pacific,
and that was
Pacific Data Images.
Oh, I thought it was Penis Digital Imaging.
It's one and the same, actually. They did motion capture. They put little
There's
little
only so
dots
much
on it.
wiener stuff that the wiener market's oversaturated. We got to close you guys down.
That's what she said. But so that was a big surprise when they closed that down, because they thought, if anything, because they laid off over 500 artists.
No, yeah, it's like crazy.
And they thought that unit would be protected because it was still sort of separate but incorporated, and it's like, yeah, sort of like
bye.
Yeah.
So you've started watching. How many episodes are you into?
I think we've watched now we're a third of the way. We watched the first 3. I think.
Okay.
Is this on Netflix?
Basically,
No, it's HBO.
HBO.
I'm watching it on.
I think it's
Netflix,
one of the
Netflix
best things
does not,
HBO's ever done.
Netflix does not carry this. I'm watching it currently right now on Amazon Prime.
Oh, so it is on Prime. Is
Yeah.
it all on Prime, or is it like the first?
It's only one season.
It's only one season. It's only 10 episodes, and it's all Prime. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, definitely check it out if you have Amazon Prime.
I do.
But it's kind of since I'm just kind of getting into it, starting out into it, I'm going to compare how Band of Brothers started versus the Pacific started. And I think in comparing the two, I think Band of Brothers was stronger of how it starts.
Much stronger at
Yeah.
the first. If the Pacific has any like total suckage, it's how that first opening hour is, and it's so boring,
It's
slow.
a little discombobulated.
It's all over the place. You don't understand who the characters are,
Yeah.
what's going on.
We're like Band of Brothers started with them basically in basic training, or paratrooper school, whatever. They were and David Schwimmer was their commanding officer at that point, and played it kind of well to the hilt, playing the bumbling kind of
Cock knocker.
right.
Why do they call you a cock knocker?
Playing the guy that thinks he knows it all, but he really doesn't. He's kind of inept. So it starts.
Luke Skywalker, by the way.
Well, and it's funny that that's sort of very much his way he was on Friends.
Well, yeah.
To a certain extent.
It was kind of like
Has
the
he
military
ever
version
played-
of
Yeah.
his Friends character.
Has he ever played anything substantially different other than the cockknocker character?
Not really. Like I really like that movie. My wife and I both really like the movie The Pallbearer, and he kind of plays
haven't
that
seen
same role. This kind of slightly inept, dude with his
So that's
problems,
three. That's the golden triumvirate, and it kind of means that he's probably just a cockknocker, and he's just coming out there and doing it himself.
Yeah, quite possibly. I can't remember a role that I've seen him in where I'm like going, "Oh, that's a really strong, different take on him."
He's like a bumbling Tom Cruise.
But I thought he was
Plays the same thing.
for Band of
over and
Brothers.
over.
I thought he was perfect.
for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely perfect for that. But yeah, Band of Brothers just starts really strong, and then you kind of identify.
You're
with the
into
character.
it. The guys, you
Right,
understand.
you kind of know where they're coming from. You kind of get them from basic training, and so then when they finally get D-Day and come into doing everything, you kind of get it. You kind of see where it progresses. Where the Pacific's a little more, it's a lot slower, a lot more like I can maybe kind of see now how these things are starting to interrelate. But then like the one dude, the dude that played in Walking Dead plays Shane, is in that, and he dies right away. Big spoiler alert. Dies in second or third episode, but you really didn't know that much about him other than little bits you saw there. But when he dies, it's like, okay, well, yeah, people die in a battle. You get more of the sense of, instead of like character involvement, you get more sense of just the overall picture of the Marines, of how that they gutted it out, on Guadalcanal, that the Navy had to leave them for a while because the Japanese Navy was battling them and drove them off, and the Marines were kind of left on the island there to fight it out themselves, against the Japanese forces that were on the island without any really support, air support, or in fact, Japanese troops had more air support than the American troops did.
Yeah, the Americans
Marines
had
did.
zero for quite some
for a
time.
long time. It had zero air support, and it was the first decisive battle that the Marines won. And they, like at the end of, I can't remember, it was episode 2 or whatever, or 3, that says, you guys are on the front page of every newspaper in America, that you're heroes, because they were the first, initial engagement to win a battle, after Pearl Harbor, win a battle against.
Because they had been on the island for months with zero communication, and they came back, and they were on the boat after they'd been quote unquote rescued and taken off the island after all the fighting.
Yeah,
and
after the Army came and started being basically placeholders.
Right. Hey, we conquered the place. Why don't you guys just hang out? And that's when the cook is like, "Don't you guys understand who you are? Everybody knows everything about what you guys have been doing for months."
You guys are every paper in America. You're heroes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's slower to develop, but it's getting better. So I think if you're in that position, stick with it.
One of the main issues and I would say this is the only issue I think that the series has that's substantial, is that they're combining 3 books that were written by the actual soldiers involved into the story, and they're interweaving that, and that's one of the first 1.5 episodes for me. You're like, what? What's going on? It's slow, and who's that guy, and why did you just cut to this? And it just wildly goes from like this one person to another person isn't listening. There's no setup. There's not a lot of narration, and I almost bailed, probably on episode 2 with like, I don't understand any. Like, I was such a big Band of Brothers fan. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't get where any of this is going. I was really bored about 1.5 way through. Stuck with it because I was like, at some point this has got to pan out. And actually, I would say that the Pacific for me I like it better than the Band of Brothers, because I think it ends up in and this is what I probably am being very redundant for you, and in terms of like why I liked it or why I didn't understand it. But the big thing for the Band of Brothers piece, right, was you got to actually see those guys interviewed after the fact.
Right.
So the humanity
the
of it
real
was there.
Captain Winters,
right?
and
And it's and once I understood, like, this is based on books that these guys came back and wrote, and you see the full circle
They're
of
real
like
stories,
their entry into the war for them, and then their last couple of episodes is like the outro, like them getting back into life and being reassimilated. And for me, like, I'm stupid, so I go out and I didn't read those books, but I did read all about the characters, their books, what all was entailed on that. And for me, the big hook was my favorite character was the most innocent coming in to the whole thing, and by the time everything was said and done, he was probably the most prolific killer of them all. And then when he went back and reassimilated into life, he became a college professor and never spoke one word, wrote it all down, wrote a book that he wanted to be released, like after, he died,
right?
Which it was. It was really well received, but his kids read the book and they're like,
Who is this guy?
This isn't my dad. My dad is the sweetest guy. He's a college professor. And this book is about my dad being cold-hearted, cold-blooded, psychopath killer. And I don't know who this person is. And that's why he didn't want it released during his lifetime, because he didn't want to ever have his kids look at him as what his period of life had been. Right.
Well, was there at any point after the book came out that did anybody corroborate what he was saying about his time in the service, or, because you never know, it could be how much BS.
I don't think there's a lot.
How much confabulation is there after the fact? I
don't think there's much, and the whole point of much, and I'm definitely a World War II history buff. That what I've always read is that the American experience in Europe was pretty violent and pretty bad, but it was nothing compared to what went on in the Pacific, because it wasn't about mass formations and tank battles and artillery. The Pacific was much like Vietnam.
It was very
times 1,000.
It was very inch by
close
inch.
quarter combat.
It was like you're 5 feet away from a guy. It's too close to shoot. What do you do? Do you bite his face off? Do you beat him to death with your gun? Do you stab him?
Hand to hand.
Do you reach in and pull his eyes out?
Plus the Japanese, fighting aesthetic where they were, fight to the death.
And they entrenched themselves. So they dug down into positions where it was like Vietnam, like Brian was saying. A lot of ways that you had to go in and get.
Well, they had gone onto all these islands and set up camp,
because where else
dug in, and they were ready,
And there weren't huge islands by any long shot.
No,
so
not at all.
What are you going to do? You're going to go down.
Yeah. So and the series is much more violent than, and you haven't gotten there yet, Ron. And
I'm looking forward to it, because my background for me is my dad was a Marine Corps officer,
right?
And of course he studied. He was
Korea.
was a kid. He was a kid during World War II.
Was he in Korea?
No, he came in right after Korea, and then went in reserves right before Vietnam.
Right. My dad was in Korea, but he was in the Navy. So
yeah. So he was all of course, when you study World War II as a Marine officer, you study and you study World War II tactics, Marine tactics,
and at that point it was still very current.
Oh, sure, it was very current, and then him being a child of a kind of a preteen during World War II. It was all, he knew the news stories anyway, of the Pacific battles and all that. So and then experiencing it, studying it, extensively as a Marine Corps officer, he was always would tell me details growing up about World War II and the Marines battles in there, and how bloody and how violent and how close up and awful it was for the troops that went through all that. But it was what had to be done.
It's freaking horrible. So my favorite character in the Pacific is Eugene Sledge. So when I say, are you far enough in to know who that is? Because I think
is he the guy that comes in later. He's the guy whose dad kept him out.
He's
for
a
so
doctor
long.
and said your heart isn't right. You're not in good physical.
Yeah, I can tell he's just coming in now, and I can tell he's that they're kind of, why they're doing this is he's got to be a central guy.
He's my favorite character, and his book is called With the Old Breed. And it was based on another book. It's called Island of the Damned, a Marine at War in the Pacific. Helmet for My Pillow is another book that was written by Robert Lickie. So World War II has so many cool books, and they named them so well. Island of the Damned, With the Old Breed, Helmet for My Pillow. And like with Vietnam, it was like that book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young is the name of the book. Yeah, right. They always name their books like such intriguing titles that like make you want to go read it. And like now, I'm a big fan of like Anthony Swofford, and I did read Jarhead. It's not like you see Jarhead. Oh, I've got to read that. It sounds good. Like the titles, and it just immediately, I feel like title on down, I'm drawn into their story. Really, really immediate. But yeah, so Eugene Sledge is my favorite character of the whole thing.
Yeah, he's. I can tell that they're building him up to be.
Well, where you're at now, he's like 18, super innocent.
Right, just coming in. You know, he's.
I'm telling you, he don't go out that way.
Right. Yeah. I kind of gather that.
Well, and that's the funny thing about anybody, any of the guys that I've known that went through Desert Storm and things like that, is nobody is ever quite the same if you saw any action, or if you knew people that saw action, that it affects you. I mean, because
yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
The interesting why I loved Band of Brothers, another reason why I love Band of Brothers so much, is a personal connection with me, is that my uncle, my mom was one of 8, and this was her closest brother. There was out of 8, there were 3 girls and 5 boys, and her closest in age to her was only 2 years.
Can you imagine having 8 kids, 9 kids at this
point?
But you think about it, guys in our age group, and is that our parents?
2. I'm done.
Our yeah, exactly. But our parents, my parents, they came from very large families, like eight siblings,
and 2 kind of where they were coming from. This was
Buddha for contraceptives,
right?
Yeah, they were Arkansas.
Well, this was they were Oklahoma farmers, and so cranking out, especially boys,
it's field hands.
That's work. That's extra helpers.
Exactly.
You could farm more and do more, and not have to for the dad, work as hard for my grandfather.
Pay him less.
Yeah. You work because I'm telling you to, and because
I would like to calculate
to eat,
whippings per mile. Okay.
Yeah, but
but anyway, my point was my mom's brother was he was 2 years older, and he served in World War II. He was a fresh went in the Army and was a paratrooper. He was one of the replacements, like in Band of Brothers, one of the replacements that comes in. He was one of the
you ain't nobody.
Yeah, he was one of the replacements that came in after D-Day, but was there for the Battle of the Bulge. And he was served in Battle of the Bulge and was shot. I got a Purple Heart for it. I got a shot during the Battle of the Bulge by a Tiger tank. A machine gun bullet from a Tiger tank hit him in the leg and really messed up his leg. And
that's a 50 cal, right?
Yeah. And he hid to survive. He hid in a haystack. It was in a field, and there was these haystacks in there. And so he crawled into this middle of this haystack and spent the night in there until the Germans had passed. The Americans kind of came back into that area and had secured the area. But he had. He could hear during the night. He could hear the German tanks running over the bodies of his comrades, of his buddies, and making sure they were dead and killing a lot of them. And he was scared to death they were going to come through that haystack that he was in, obviously. But
did he jump out at any point with a baseball bat and kill some Nazis?
No, not like
why would he have a baseball bat?
Inglorious Bastards.
Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah. But no, he and the thing is, like you were just saying, Brian, is that he didn't talk about it to his family. My cousins, my first cousins, he had 4 kids. They had 4 kids when he came back from war, and the youngest one is just 2 years older than me, and my cousin Pat. But he just really didn't talk about it. They had to basically kind of try and pry a few things from him, but just from the horrors he saw in battle, and from that whole experience there in the Battle of the Bulge, it kind of scarred him for life.
Well, and who wants to come back from something like that, especially if you've done, as you'll see with the Sledge character, the stuff that he does, and get married and have kids and say, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I
fucking beat dudes' heads in with fucking my gun,
rifle, right?
Or I've shot people in the face from inches away and loved it. I didn't. Hey, I'm doing this, but I loved being a killer. I mean, nobody wants to come back and do that. Well, and I totally get what you're saying, because my granddad, wasn't like a Marine, but he was in the maybe he was, but he did support aircraft and aircraft mechanics in the Pacific. And I felt like when I was talking to him when I was 13 or 14, he had daughters. So I felt like at that point when I was 13 or 14, when he's telling me stories, it's probably the first time he's ever said any of this stuff. Yeah. Maybe to his buddies, like out on hunting trips when they're in completely inebriated. But I just don't feel like most of these guys come back and are like, hey, let me tell you about some sicko fucking shit I did.
Right.
And that's something that I've heard about specifically in World War II, is that it was a cultural thing and it was a generational thing, is that men, when they came back, they did not like share their feelings. You did what you did. You don't worry about it.
Well, and there wasn't,
what the past was the past. You don't talk about it.
Yeah, it was man up and get on the fucking down the road.
You don't cry about it. You don't talk about it.
There was no PSTD back then,
there was plenty of it.
Well, it was, but they just gutted it up and went on.
Well, I'm a huge World War I buff, and I read, and in World War I, they would just fucking shoot you.
It was
like if you had
it was more horrible because it was closer trench warfare.
Well, it was terrible.
And gas and everything
but
else.
Literally, if you basically cracked, you got fucking shot at his firing squad. You were done.
They couldn't.
It was over.
They couldn't trust you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like no. It was like we're men, and this was about war and blah blah blah. It was some general making a decision who's been back at the chalet, drinking wine and eating pigeon and stuff.
He wasn't out there in the
what do you mean that guy
trenches.
can't? He's like sits in a chair and shakes all day, and he can't get back out there. That guy's a traitor. Shoot him, and they would just take him out into a field and fucking shoot these guys.
It's funny that series Nikki and I have been watching Downton Abbey. They had a story thread about one of the characters.
Nobody watches Downton Abbey.
She, exactly. I don't even know why I bring it up. Is that she works down in the kitchen, and I think a nephew of hers.
Yeah, that was on season 5.
He ran off.
Yep.
And it was like,
and it's not so much he ran off. He mentally broke.
Yeah.
And his fight or flight said flight.
And they shot him.
Yeah. That's what they did.
That's what they did. It's treason, and you would be shot on the field.
You're a deserter.
Deserter,
We shoot deserters,
And George Carlin had an amazing stand-up thing where he would do specifically about this topic and talk about shell shock.
Oh, yeah.
And combat fatigue. Is
all,
what it became.
All the fancy names that they make up for stuff.
In World War II, it's like, it's combat fatigue. And Carlin would be like, whoa, he's just tired. He's just tired. He needs to take a nap.
To rest up a while.
And then
how the terms get watered down every.
Yeah, it becomes more of a clinical and watered down. It's like, no, there's only so much killing and
it's
people blowing up,
dismemberment and death and blood carnage.
He said it's actually yes, shell shock is a really good term for it.
Yeah, you need to roll it back and say, no, this guy is freaking the fuck out because shit's been blowing up around him for like a year.
His buddies become dismembered body parts right in front of him.
And that was the bit, that they eventually watered it down to PSTD. It's like, what the hell is that? It's an acronym.
Well, PSTD allows us, I just read an article last week where one of these guys coming back from Iraq who has PSTD, he can't get back in. He froze to death. And this week's winter weather because he can't reassimilate. And he's freezing to death. So you're going to be surprised as you march through the Pacific how unbelievably, and they're not really shy about holding back on the violence on this. I mean, the violence every episode ratchets up until at some point, like 7 or 8, you're like, man, I don't know if I can take this shit anymore. I mean, this is some sick slasher type of shit. Yeah. And then, and then it ratchets back down as they spin out of the war. And you're like, oh my God, how do these guys survive at all, number one, and then come back and make anything of themselves other than sit in a room and shake all day long? It's unbelievable.
You remember the football coach when we was at Old High, Joe Bob?
Yeah. He was
part of the Bataan Death March.
Yeah. So I had him in a couple of classes, and he told some good stories. And what was Mr. Gill, was he a science teacher, but he had fought in Korea?
Pete Gill, yeah.
And he would sit in class, and if somebody complained about anything, he would say, like, I was in Korea, and when we were out of bullets, we just had to run over there and, like, put our hands in the guy's mouth and, like, rip his face off. Because it was either like, you have no bullets and you can't shoot that guy, or you got to just put your hands, tackle him, take him to the ground, put your hand in his mouth and like rip the side of his face off.
Now, how much is that is hyperbole?
I have no idea.
to impress.
But as a 15-year-old, I was
get
thinking,
somebody-
like, Korea must have been much worse than MASH makes it out to be.
Right, yeah.
Well, you think about it, it's like
But his name was Mr. Gill, right?
Pete Gill.
Am I right?
He was like 6'10". He was like taller than you,
Oh, wow.
and a
Big
certain
dude.
amount because
No,
he
I
was-
don't think it was. I know who you're talking about. Gill was a younger guy. But this guy was kind of short and older, maybe 50 at the time.
It had to have been to be in Korea then.
It wasn't Gil then.
No, Gill was maybe 35, 40
Yeah.
at the very, very most
Yeah,
at that time.
it was. I probably know who.
But he was Gill was a history teacher.
Okay, was he a math teacher?
No, he was science, I think.
Science.
I don't know.
Was it my dad?
No.
I was about
He
to
had
say.
to have
Your
been.
dad did your dad teach at Old High?
Yeah, he was science teacher and football coach.
But by the time we got there,
Yeah, yeah, or freshman, junior, sophomore year.
okay, this would have been a sophomore or junior year, somewhere in there. But no, it wasn't your dad.
Was it?
That guy had been older to make it timeline.
Yeah,
timeline
yeah.
will come out right because, like I said, my dad was between Korea and Vietnam, and he was 52 when I was he died when I was a sophomore in high school.
Well,
so you guys are younger than me, so he had to have been maybe in
my
the
dad-
60s by then.
My dad was born in 31, so
Yeah, my dad was 28.
yeah, so they're about the same.
Yeah, good times to be born. My
Yeah,
granddad.
the Great Depression. Yeah.
Economy.
started right before the Great Depression started. Yeah.
That's why, like, and I'm sure you guys think about the same thing too. So my granddad that fought in the Pacific was born in Oklahoma, right at the outbreak of the Depression.
Right around the Dust Bowl era.
Dust
Yeah.
Bowl, had to go through that entire thing. Was abandoned. Was dropped off at an orphanage when he was like 5.
Holy crap!
At an Oklahoma orphanage. Had to grow up. Basically, like, ran away until he was like 14, 15, ran away and joined the military. And I think, like, man, sometimes I think, oh, man, I had a pretty shitty day today. And then I think back, like, man, if my granddad was still alive, he would have been like, you
He'd
were
laugh
such
in
a
your face.
pussy. You put your skates on and get the
Man
fuck
up,
up.
Miller.
And, yeah.
Well, and they talk about that a lot about the average age in Vietnam was 19. The song.
No, 19.
19. Yeah, exactly.
Paul
But
Hardcastle.
There's a great part of Archer when she's like she's smoking a big joint, and the lady,
Leia, or
whatever the mom's name is, she calls
the-
her and she's like, tomorrow we're having a drug test for everybody that works here, and she's like, okay, but she's trying to hold this huge hit in she's taking, and she's like, I'm so sick of your beatboxing shit. And she's like, last week it was rap, this week it's beatboxing. I don't understand what's going on with these people.
See, but it's funny that we was talking about, technology-wise, how you can't get away with anything these days. But back in World War I, World War II, you're 14. Yep, I'm 17. I'm 18, sir.
yeah, I'm ready to fight.
Well, one of the
Like,
episodes
okay,
of
there
MASH.
you go. Off you go.
Yeah.
So the episode of MASH with Ron Howard. Have you made it that far?
I've seen them all.
Well, I mean, on your recent rewatching of MASH.
No.
So I watched that one the other night, and Ron Howard's character in that episode of MASH, he's 15, I think, and he's joined the military, and he's all gung-ho to prove to his girlfriend back home that he's manly, because she broke up with him.
And I can think of no better way.
Then join the
doing-
military. Yeah,
Worst reason to go into the military.
She's going to see all this shit.
right.
But he's put himself in the middle of all this horribleness at 15 to prove that he's a man, because she left him for a guy that's 17 and has joined the army.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think about how I was at 15. I cannot even think about going into the military at that age, even though I did go in the
At
reserve
18.
at 18. But at 15, emotional maturity and everything. And I weighed probably about 145 pounds when I was 15.
Right.
And it's to go in, sir, yes, sir, I am going to step on these diagonal yellow footprints in boot camp, and I'm going to do all this crazy stuff and go over and kill somebody. I cannot imagine that for guys our time frame, but back then they're like, yes, sure.
Well, and not how much fucked up you would have been if you went into that mix at 15 Verse like, and that's the point of that song you were talking about. That no 19 was it that in the I think it's part of the lyrics in there. The average age of the military person in World War II is like 26. In Vietnam, it was 19.
19, right?
Yeah. So emotionally, where are you at, and what can you deal with at 14 and verse 19 and verse 26? In terms of years, it's 9 years, but in terms of emotional development, it's a million years.
Well, and they've talked about that with over in Africa and the Middle East, that they will go into villages and grab these children basically and make them fighters, is because they can mold them into these killing machines that have no concept of I'm just doing what I've been told is right, and they don't have any cognition of maybe I shouldn't be doing this,
Well,
children soldiers make the best fighters.
And one of the first things that they make those guys do when they pick them up at 10, 11 is kill their own family.
Right.
And then it becomes like,
this is the way.
There's no going back now. You got to.
And they won't leave because they're so afraid that if anyone ever finds out that they had to shoot their own family, then they're done. But in a couple weeks, and hopefully in a couple weeks, you guys have watched all those episodes. And I want to hear your take on the characters, the level of violence that occurs, the level of depravity that they have to sink down to in order to win a lot of those battles.
I know it's coming.
How they spin off. I'm really interested to see your take.
So the Pacific is 10 episodes?
I think it's 10 episodes.
10.
Is it like hour and a half episodes?
It's an hour.
Hour, 50
Okay.
something, 50 something.
Well, it's HBO, so no commercials. It's right out an hour. It's like 65 minutes.
Yeah.
Intro and everything.
Maybe, it depends on the episode. Maybe one may be 58, one may be 62, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know that some of the earlier episodes, I've got my gripes with Prime, but they have just enough different content that
they don't have enough gay and lesbian transgendered stuff to maintain your...
Did you say transgender or
transgender? Yeah, I coined that term last podcast.
Yeah, they have just enough variety from Netflix that it's worth checking them out with their funky interface and you can't see when you're fast forwarding.
I think we talked about it in a previous podcast. Their interface compared to Netflix
is a beating.
Oh man, just getting into the episode and start launching it.
Finding what you want. You're like 47 clicks in. I'm
really?
okay.
I got to go do all this for Netflix. It's so much easier.
Are we at a break?
I need a drink. How about yourself?
I'm still nursing my strong concoction.
Well, it's because you're so busy eating.
And then too, I have twice the glass that you do. I've got the giant highball glass, and you got the little one.
That's not true.
Yeah. Let's take a break.
That's what she said.
All right.
Take it over. Don't you know that we
It's funny they put a light on there that's like for low ceilings.
Well, it's
you got one of the highest ceilings in your whole damn house right here.
it's one of those not low watch. It's the swirly ones.
LED. Oh no, the
Fluorescent bulbs.
the mercury vapor.
Mercury vapor light.
Yeah.
This is an outdoor park light.
It runs for exactly 8 hours and it explodes.
It's like the arc sodium lights they had down in Austin.
No, it's
Party at the
like
Moon
super
Tower.
low electricity using
LED.
green lights.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So we've made fresh drinks. I think I'm drinking another I think I'm my fifth Jack and Coke. Paul has switched from gin to
Jack and Coke.
and
Gentlemen.
Ron is
Gentlemen.
I'm still doing rum and cokes.
rum in the Coke. Why is the rum always gone?
Are you using the Kraken?
This time I went with Captain Morgan Black.
Nice.
So
Switched.
at some point, you
Although
fools,
there's not a whole lot of difference there.
Look
no,
at
but you
Ron.
fools have to start bringing your
Ron.
own alcohol or contributing to the bar at some point.
I believe that I gave you the Kraken.
You did as a housewarming gift.
That's right. And I drove 25
Indian giver.
minutes. And I
And
drove
I gave
20
you a gas grill.
You got it for free. I mean, come on.
I did win it in a lottery at work, but that's beside the point.
That's right.
I had to clean that son of a bitch.
Had to get the dust off of it.
So, Paul, you got a series you want to talk about?
It's sort of a series, but it blends into that.
This sort of thing.
Uh-oh.
You air quote that because I'm interested to see what you're going to say on it.
This is that thing because I use a PS3 to watch Netflix, Prime. I saw the other night it had an app called Popcorn Flix, FLIX.
Almost sounds like Netflix.
Yeah, almost. It's funny.
Popcorn flicks.
And it's funny because it showed up in the new stuff. What's new? And it's an app you can install to watch movies. And let me caveat that with their library is not deep. their catalog.
I would say it's kind of shallow from the screenshot you sent us.
Yeah, and because I took some more screenshots that I'll kick over to you so you can post them up.
Please do.
Let me kick over to it is the terms of service. Popcorn Flix is a free ad-supported streaming service that offers a variety of films and series in a growing number of countries all over the world. Blah blah blah. And
So their reach is global. It should
Yes.
be awesome.
Yeah, it
well,
should
and
be.
that's the interesting thing. They're very niche. It's a very niche. I think most of it seems to be based off of horror genre.
Horror genre? Oh man, I love horror genre.
Is that Thailand stuff?
Yeah, it's you could it's a Muay Thai Thailand type of thing. Screen Media Ventures based out of New York area, and it's interesting. I took screenshots and it says Popcorn Flix movies TV free. Air quote. And they run before each one. They run an ad and they run it twice in a row. They run the ad. And then they run the same ad again.
They're like 30-second ads or 15-second ads?
15-second ads.
Yeah.
And like last night, I popped on one show. I don't even know what it was, just to see. And it's an ad for a gum, some type of gum that I've never seen before. And I saw the ad twice. So I was like, okay. And I don't even know what the gum was called. It was so short.
But it's Taiwanese gum, right?
No, it was American. It's like, it was one of those, like a Skittles commercial. It's like, you need to try this now. Go. And that was it.
Step into the rainbow!
Step into the Slim Jim. And so taste the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Let's settle this the usual way. Like that Super Bowl ad with the people with the big wrestling arms.
Right.
So genres. They
Like
got,
me, I have big wrestling arms.
Yeah. So TV series. Here's some TV series. Most popular: Urban Legends, The Big Comfy Couch, Puppy in My Pocket.
Oh, big comfy couch. So that lady, the girl, the original cast member, I don't know if you're going to go here and you were continuing on. She got fired because she did that funny video about anal sex online.
Nice.
What is Big Puffy Couch in the first one?
Comfy couch. So
comfy couch.
it's a really cool thing. Like it's about story time. and it's a chick. She reads a book, and she's
Is it
on
a
the
kids show?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a kid show, and my kids, I've seen it.
Yeah, and the original girl that was on there got let go because she had previously done some like Funny or Die thing about, and it was not dirty. She was not naked, and it was about like, oh, I like sticking things in my butt or something like that. So when it broke,
Sharpies.
yeah,
Sharpies.
that's all
Okay.
fun and games till the cap comes off.
That's right.
That's not the end you stick in your butt, man. Come on.
Oh shit! Right? So
Exactly.
she got
Literally.
let go
Literally.
from the big comfy couch because of some Funny or Die thing.
Because
So
it's because
stupid.
she called it the big comfy crouch.
I'm okay with that. So I'm on popcornflix.com's website. So
Uh-oh.
here's what they're advertising, which is
I'm telling you, it is
Far Cry, based on, I'm
Yeah,
assuming
I
on
think
the
that's
video
their big.
game.
That's their big show, right?
or
Their-
40 Shades of Blue instead of 50 Shades of Gray. That's on the. That's on.
And then they have,
No way.
Ron will love this one, Women Behind Bars.
yeah.
That's not Caged Heat. I'm not interested.
Well,
And
it's
they also
Orange is the New
they're-
Black.
Since we talk about series, one of their big series is that series Cheaters,
Oh yeah,
where they try to
yeah.
catch people creeping.
catch people cheating.
Yeah.
people-
Well, here's they are currently showing Ski School 2.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Ski School the original one? The one it's like with the German guy says like, "Not on, you can kiss my ass, not on the left side, not on the right side, but in the middle." Wasn't that Ski School 1?
maybe yeah.
It very
That's still one of my favorite movie quotes of all time.
well, and they have other like TV series. They have the original The Man Show with a fat Jimmy Kimmel before he hit it big
right,
time.
right. Him and Adam Carolla. Yeah.
Alaska State Troopers.
Oh,
40, like I said, 40 Shades of Blue, and that's the only reason it's titled up is because of 50 Shades of Grey. It's
Right.
40 Shades of Blue, really. And it's a very limited library. They also have. Hold on a second. I had some show notes.
you expect much with the. You just gotta sit there.
Craigslist Joe is one of their staff picks this month.
What?
Craigslist Joe. Apparently, I don't know, for 31 days and nights, Joe will live entirely off the alms of America's new town square, Craigslist. From transportation to food, shelter, and companionship, i.e. sex. I'm reading into that.
Right.
Joe
right.
depends solely on the generosity of people he meets to the massive digital swap meet.
Craigslist personals.
Yeah,
Will
but
America
it-
help Joe?
Just from what I was looking at Screen Media Ventures website, is that they had a site where you could stream, classic horror movies and horror movies you never heard of, frightpicks.com. And they have, now fans of zombies, monsters, slashers, the supernatural, and other popular horror genres. And they seem to have nearly the whole library of the trauma films.
Oh, you have to, right?
They have a
Yeah.
whole series,
Yeah.
whole series of women behind bars. I'm just looking through the thing, and it's all about like, let me tell you why I'm here in jail because of my man is a piece of shit.
But see, and that's the funny thing is that they have a lot of titles that even if you looked, it's not even on Netflix because they don't even have it in the library. It's a very limited niche type of thing. But they have music videos, and they have Taylor Swift stuff. They have Justin Bieber stuff. They have
Well, that sounds not good.
But I mean, for people that can't pay for Netflix,
That's a lot mainstream, though.
But for people that can't pay for Netflix, I can see that it has appeal. And they did have something listed on their website that the app was downloaded over 5 million times in 2013 or 2011. So it has, and it just showed up on PS3. So if it showed up, then it has a certain amount of appeal.
So I do think that like Hulu, which I've recently re-engaged with in watching Archer because it's on there.
right.
And I have
It's on
it.
Netflix too.
I
By the
know,
way.
no, I know. But what I try to do, because what Netflix does, if I watch Archer on Netflix, the algorithm for Netflix will kick me out nothing but
right.
fucking animated
Animation. Okay,
shit
I
for
got
like the
it.
next year and a
I
half.
get you now. Okay.
So what I do think about what you're talking about, how they do their business model, and how I don't mind I think and within 24 minutes of Archer, I think I have to watch commercials 3 times. I don't mind watching commercials. As long as I get to watch what I want to watch, when I want to watch it, at the pace I want to watch it at.
Right.
I watch commercials all day long. Force me. You can't, like, what you can do on Hulu is if you're fast forwarding, like, man, I've seen this episode or this movie or whatever, like, halfway through. If you start to fast forward once the initial commercials, you can fast forward past commercial breaks. And it shows you on screen, like, here's a commercial break, here's a commercial break. And you can go right through them. As long as you watch the initial commercials, you can fast forward to whatever part of the movie or episode you want to watch, and you can start right there. I have no issue watching commercials as long as I watch what I want to watch, when I want to watch, and how I want to watch it. Show me all the commercials you want, I don't care. So what I do think about a little bit of Hulu's ultimate play in this thing may be is to show commercials. It seems like, given that the normal media is like that's where they get most of their money, is off of displaying the commercials. And if they display commercials on here and it's only a couple of commercials per episode, that would be a good thing to do. Like, I don't mind doing that. As an offset of paying for a season or paying for a movie to watch a commercial or two, like, yeah, fuck it, okay.
But see, and for me, the thing is that it's like I love watching The Walking Dead, and I'm paying for cable. And The Walking Dead, I get to see a whole bunch of commercials and some zombie stuff. I mean, the commercials
when you record it, when you like DVR it.
Yeah.
Don't you have the 30-second skip programmed into your remote?
I do, but it's like I sometimes feel like I spend more of my time skipping commercials than watching the show.
There's 8 pushes of the button and then you're done.
I will make your next drink or get your next ice thing if you can tell me who directed Far Cry 2014.
Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll. Worst director ever.
You're right, U-Bowl.
Really?
I'll get your ice for your next drink. Yeah, U-Bowl directed Far Cry 2014.
Really?
Good guess.
I would not have.
He's the big direct-to-video guy.
Son of a bitch, I was right.
Holy cow.
So big ups to U-Bowl and Paul.
That's why he's on popcornflix.com.
44 years in, finally being right.
Sheer sign of the apocalypse.
God, he's been like rejected for so many movies here recently. Like, I can't remember what the big one was. Like one of the bigger movies that's come out in the last couple of years, they kicked him to the curb on that.
Well, and there was some.
He applied and like, no.
Yeah, there was some property that they said specifically that he would never be attached to it.
Yeah, they wouldn't even release it into the bidding market without the caveat that U-Bowl cannot buy this. I can't remember what it was.
Because he has done.
I saw
really
shit.
Horrible movies.
He should be in the part of the HBO shit factory over there.
Or what's the Golden Turkey Awards or whatever they are?
Golden raspberries.
Yeah, raspberries, whatever.
So any more about Popcorn Flicks, Paul?
Yeah, and that's the thing to me. It's very just scanning through it. There is such a thin library, and a lot of stuff they have like children's stuff like Pinocchio and stuff like that.
But it's like
it's like made.
It's the 1997 Pinocchio that was made by the little independent studio you never heard of,
right? Or made overseas as a knockoff
right.
of.
So here's their Oscar-nominated actors selection of movies.
Uh-oh.
They have Michelle Pfeiffer and Ashton Kutcher in Personal Effects. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
See, and
what?
and when I
they actually made a movie together,
and I took a whole bunch of screenshots. I just went
Miss
through
Pfeiffer. What the fuck? How far have your star fallen?
Yeah, and I went through and looked through all the
categories. Didn't do so well.
all the categories.
If she ever goes missing,
and
it was me.
Their library. You get used to things like Netflix and to where say new releases, and it's like you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Their new releases, I scrolled 2 screens and I was back to the start again. So it's like.
So who watched Kristen Stewart, Thomas Cavanaugh, Bruce Dern in The Cake Eaters.
What?
It's on the. And so here you go. Here's the funniest one of them all.
Cake Eaters.
Dark Side of the Sun, starring Brad Pitt, Guy Boyd, Cheryl Pollack, and some other stupid fucks. While searching for a cure for disfiguring skin disease, Rick, I'm assuming that's Brad Pitt, meets an andriotic healer who gives him a cure that can only last for 3 days. Rick decides to live these days to the fullest and finds respite in a young American girl who hasn't, by the way, found respite in a young American girl. The two fall in love, yet they secretly hope for a miracle in the dark side of the sun.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about when you go.
What year was that?
They don't. It doesn't say when you do the info on the movies. It doesn't say the year of the movie. So
Brad Pitt looks like 15.
But and that is
it says 2011, but I'm seriously doubting that that's the case.
And that's the thing that
way before that.
The like when you first log on, they had Far Cry.
It was directed by Bolzinder Boda Nikolic.
Yeah, they had Far Cry listed first, of course, and then on the same splash page, 40
That's
Shades
from
of Blue.
1988.
And then
I was looking on Brad Pitt's IMDb page. 1988.
Exactly.
Of course, they put him on the cover.
They
pick video box.
They picked
Probably
niche
like
stuff
5 seconds of it.
from early in people's careers. They had Trailer Park Boys.
Well, it was right after he was in 21 Jump Street and Dallas, the original series. What, as like a kid?
That had to be pre. What's the two girls?
California.
No. The two girls that jump off the.
I want to say Thelma and Louise. Yes.
Thelma and Louise. I wanted to say Lewis and Clark, but that's not right.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the genre stuff I went through. There's some stuff you could watch. I mean, they had a thing for Nat Geo, National Geographic.
Well, it does look like they have a ton of National Geographic.
Yeah, and they have stuff that they can pick up for a cheap license, and
sure,
you know,
nobody's buying it.
Yeah, but look at the kid stuff. It's like Popeye, and it looks like the Max Fleischer stuff. Peter
the Robin
Pan.
Williams Popeye?
No, it's like the original.
Oh, the actual cartoon.
Animation.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know that.
Yeah.
That
well, that was actually kind of cool, kind of fun.
and yeah, but it's stuff that we saw when we was kids.
Right,
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, that was in syndication, repeated syndication when we were children.
Right, exactly, and
they were from the 50s.
They have the Western genre, but all the Western films I went through the category. I did not recognize. I don't think one of them.
There were so many Westerns made back in the early days of movie theaters.
What this
50s.
reminds me of, like, looking at this, when I first started talking to people about, and it was prior to me switching over to Netflix streaming, the stuff that was on Netflix streaming was, like, from the 40s and 50s.
Right.
When
they first started, they just got whatever they could get
they
for
had,
nothing.
They had I want to say a contract, was it with Starz initially?
Yeah,
was
maybe.
that there? And so they would show movies that were currently running on Starz, and then they would do some other shit. But it was terrible, and like every once in a while they would have. Now, I'm a big fan of the movies from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they actually had some good stuff on there from those decades. But no one today really wanted to watch those flicks. So it was like, awesome for me, but for the most part, I think most people thought it was shit. And so what they spent like 2 years digging themselves out of that, like, yeah, I looked at the stuff on there, and it was a bunch of shit.
Well, and that's the thing with this whole, because I first noticed it the other day that it popped up and I could download it.
Maybe 4 or 5 years from now, they'll have Ski School 3,
exactly.
And it'll be worth getting.
Or the original, the very first Hot Tub Time Machine, They have a very niche market, and it looked like their niche market, if you go to that frightpicks.com, is that was their sort of their initial thing that you could stream online, and it's these horror movies or suspense movies.
You'd be surprised, and I may have talked about this over the last couple of times, like if you think of like the big cable networks that and like must be watched by a ton of people, like I think I read something in the last 9 months that like CNN is only watched at any one time by 250,000 people,
and that's why they repeat stuff over and over.
Yeah, because that's high. That's on the high side. Like some of these cable companies are really struggling to pull like 100 and 150,000 people at any one given like 30-minute interval. Like, how many people are streaming Netflix at any one time? How many people are watching something off iTunes or Popcorn Flicks? I mean, shit, Popcorn Flicks may be like 30,000 people less than CNN at any one time. Who should be making them?
Or 30,000 people total.
Well, and that's the thing. It's easy to make fun of, like, you look at the depth of their library, but they have just enough stuff there that they have eyeballs and that they can support ads.
Where else is Cake Eaters running? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
I opened up one of the horror things, and they ran an ad for a new Stephen King story that is being made by Screen Media Ventures, a Stephen King short story. So is going to be made into a movie. It's probably going
It'll either be really good or total shit.
Direct to Popcorn Flicks.
Maximum overdrive. But it's one of those things that they have developed their niche, and they've pushed it out to Roku. They've pushed it out to Android. They're pushing it out into the mobile media space with their limited library, but somebody's going to watch it.
So, yeah, there's a ton of money, I think, to be made and stuff like this. And so I'll give you a real-world example from myself. So when I was running a video store in Lawton, Oklahoma, my biggest...
So proud of you.
No, thank you. So my biggest...
It was his shining moment in the sun.
500 years ago. So my biggest money makers were, like, I was a big watcher of Kung Fu theater growing up, right? Was it TNT?
Yeah.
On Sundays at 11 or whatever. So I ordered all, like, hundreds of movies I had seen off of TNT on Kung Fu Theater, and I created a Kung Fu genre and had like 200, and I paid like $9.
And this is VHS, right?
VHS.
Yes.
And I paid $9 to get those in the store, and I would make $200 to $300 per title. So if I ordered 100 of them times 200 or 300, it was a lot of freaking money, right?
And you got such a sweet cut off of that.
2.5%. That Lawton store made me a ton of money. I ain't gonna lie.
Bonuses.
The bonuses were sweet.
Yeah, that store always did well on bonuses.
But the thing of it is like, you could invest in this stuff that 95% of the people would say, fuck it, I would never watch that. But the 5% were like, yo, that's my shit, man.
Yeah.
And they would rent
the max they could.
Every one of them.
Right.
So we did that with Kung Fu and like all these like Hong Kong action flicks, and we did all these off-the-books genres. And our video department was netting at the end of the month like $40,000, and I was getting like 5% of that.
So like, what was it like? Oh my God, what is that?
It was good money, but my point is,
it's like $500.
It was shit that, like you're talking about, it's on Popcorn Flicks, that the vast majority of people are going to pass on. But there's a ton of people out there that are going to go, well, yeah, I'll watch that for free.
Popcorn Flicks is for the people that have seen everything on Netflix. Either it doesn't interest them much because they're not in the mainstream, or they've seen it all and they're like, I'm looking for something different.
Well, and that's the whole thing. What I was talking about, it seems like their core thing was like trauma, horror flicks, things, Puppet Master, things like that.
What is trauma? I saw y'all's text message. I don't understand what the fuck
Toxic
Avenger. Remember the trauma films?
Nukem High.
Glass of Nukem High.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah, no, all those.
They've made. I mean,
I didn't know that was a genre.
Toxie.
Well, they're a company that has made all these
trauma films. Yeah.
Trauma films, and they have it looks like 40, all of their complete library. And trauma has been around for decades.
Since the 80s, yeah.
And they've made, all these, I mean, certifiable cult classic type of movies, and they have their whole library. So they've sort of it seems like Screen Media has sort of invested in sort of the horror genre, the little herd slasher, low budget type of things, and they've expanded from that. And I mean, good for them. I mean, they're highlighting Cheaters as one of their highlight series,
which is DFW based. The only 4 or 5 times I've watched it, I've only watched it hoping that I would see somebody I know.
Well, and that's the funny thing is that I remember that series back in like the mid to late 90s, I think it was. And the episode that stood out in my mind was the guy that they chased down the cheater, the guy that is cheating with the woman or something like that, and the guy pulled over. They had this van, they pulled him over, and he jumped out of his car with a gun, and the whole crew was like, "Oh, la, 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 la."
I remember that one guy got stabbed.
Yeah, in
an episode, he rolled up on somebody, and the guy just whipped out a knife and stabbed him.
You play with fire.
You get burned.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I'm on the Troma Films website, Troma.com. There's some glorious titles out here. 30 Girls, 30 Days.
Okay,
the best one.
I like
the
it.
best
Sound
one.
like a good movie.
Bloodsucking Freaks. Banana MFer. From Asia with Lust.
So they filmed
The
porn?
Toxic Avenger is their number one title, of course.
It's very borderline. It's schlocky.
Okay, this is the best one. Bikini Swamp Girl Massacre.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's like somebody comes up with this. Okay, how can we show some TNA?
Is you bowl direct a lot of stuff for them?
It's right up his alley, that's for sure.
He aspires to such greatness. But see, and that's the thing, is that they have Troma has a fan base and a cult history, and they have that library. So they have taken that niche, and they have a whole bunch like Puppet Master and movies like that. And it's like, okay, Chucky,
Blood Rain 7.
Yeah, exactly. And they have built a niche, and they have decided to.
I don't know if I've seen any of the Blood Rain movies.
And they have figured a way to push that. And that's, I give them credit, is that they've figured a way to make a mini Netflix from their limited library.
That's fine. I again, from last podcast, I think that's a really super good thing.
Yeah.
And when you tell me that Popcorn Flicks is starting to invest a little bit of money in its own content to develop stuff, I'm cool. I think
I don't know if they're at that point right now.
No, and no one would have said that about Netflix until they came out and said, "Hey, we are starting to invest money in our own content."
Yeah, they are. To me, they strike me as that they're doing.
Come on, Popcorn Flicks, quit fucking around and do some stuff.
They are getting it out, what their library is, out to the public through all options, and they're doing it free. They're supporting it. They say they don't collect information. They don't. I
can tell you right now that's a lie.
They just show ads, and they show ads at the very start twice. Even
just back-to-back ads?
Even the same ad. Even if the ad doesn't make any sense at all, they show it twice.
Paul, you should buy tampons.
It's like,
no, I don't want to buy tampons. No, Paul, you should buy tampons again for the second time.
And that's the funny thing, is that like last night, that ad for the gum is that it was like a Skittles commercial, but it made even less sense, and it was much shorter, like 15 seconds. It's like, hey, I have some gum. You want to eat it? Gum.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
It's not, and it's like, what was the name of the gum? I don't even know. Where do you buy this?
I'm scared. I peed myself a little bit, and I feel like I need to have some chewing gum.
So anyway, for those of you, it's available on PS3.
Right.
You could just download the app, install it, and you get free.
Is there other video services on PS3 though that you can do? Like
there's Cracked. I mean, there's
Vimeo
a number of
whatever.
Yeah. Well, Vimeo is typically like
it's
music
everywhere,
videos and stuff like that. It's not like long play.
Well, and that's
I think Troma stuff's on there.
Probably.
Too, I saw it on the Troma.com.
And that's the thing that struck me about this Popcorn Flicks, is that I have the YouTube installed. I have
the YouTube.
The YouTube.
You just sounded like you were 70.
I have YouTube.
You guys know how to look up stuff on the Google?
Say the internet is a series of tubes, and it's delivered to you through the tubes. And vote for America. It's. I have Amazon Prime. I have Netflix. I have
Netflix. By the way, can be cured with penicillin. I just want to.
Well, it depends on how many times you flick it.
Yeah, and how much flicks you have.
Yeah, how much flicks does a flick? But this popped up in the news section, Popcorn Flicks. On when you log in, it has what's new, and it said,
"Oh, they highlighted it."
This is something that was highlighted. So it had enough pull that it made Sony say, okay, we need to push this out, so...
The sound of Ron getting chips.
More chips from the bag. I'll have to look at my...
More debt.
Speaking of Sony, I'll have to look at my Sony DVD player and see if it pops up on there, if Popcorn Flicks does. Because there's like a zillion
I know, I have
video services
I have a
that come up on
Sony Blu-ray player and a PS4. And there's literally like 75 apps you have to sort through just to get the fucking thing to turn on.
See, and I have a PS3, and that's the main reason I like the PS3 is that Blu-ray, Netflix.
And
Amazon,
totally.
of course. So,
and now, and obviously, I ragged a little bit around people that are still buying discs, whether it be Blu-ray or DVD. That you as for the same price, you can buy them digitally and own them forever. So it's interesting. So good luck, Popcorn Flicks. You ready to talk about something else? I almost beat you and Ginger down, because yet again, like the Pacific, I've been beating you guys down for years with this particular series.
Is this what you've been teasing for the last two podcasts?
Because like Ginger rolled out here and was like, "Oh, Battlestar Galactica is so badass," and
well, it is.
But you had to talk her into watching it prior to her watching the first episode.
That's true.
I'm sure you had to headlock her, pull her the panty thing up.
I told her, I said, "You will love this. You got to watch it." And
she fought it, I'm sure, and then she watched.
Oh, it's a sci-fi.
Oh my god, it's gonna be so
show.
dumb. It's about science, and I don't like Stephen Hawking.
Stargate.
More than that, she just thought it was like lasers and people
Stargate
shooting each other with spaceships.
Yeah. So interesting enough, Paul. With the Stargate SG-1, it is Stargate Universe that I'm talking about.
I'm glad you brought. I was just sort of joking, but I've heard a lot of good things about.
So
Stargate.
Post Battlestar Galactica coming out on TV, and people actually like looking up, away from their crotch while they're watching their porn, and saying, there can actually there can actually be some sci-fi stuff that comes out on TV that's
a little too much squeakage there.
That's good and okay and different.
It's a good seal.
You can realdoll.com is the sponsor of this particular 2 minutes.
I was thinking this the other day. It's 2015. Where are the robotic sex dolls we were promised?
Have you not ever been to realdoll.com?
I've been to realdoll.com actually, and
They
no, wait a minute. No, I have not. What is that, Brian?
It's like, what?
It's some pretty cool stuff.
They have made some technological improvements, so I've heard.
So, as you're going to find out in the Archer series, he ends up dating a cyborg, and his worst nightmare is when he walks in the morning after, and her vagina is in the sink. And he's like, "What is going on,
Siri? What happened to you?"
Yeah. So Stargate Universe is not like SG-1. It's not like Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah.
And literally the first Stargate show that I had ever watched on TV. I'm sure
the very well done Kurt Russell movie.
And the
Stargate.
movie was good.
Yeah,
the movie
was good. It was awesome.
It wasn't Kurt Russell.
Yeah, it was Stargate.
No, it was dude from Blacklist.
It was Kurt Loder.
It was, both of them. It was Kurt Russell and James Spader.
Oh, yeah, James. Okay. I always remember James Spader's part.
Kurt Russell was the main guy.
A dumbaster.
He was the military leader of the military group.
Which I always write those guys off as a dumbass at the beginning of a movie.
And Spader was the scientist guy.
Right. Spader drives it. He's the main character who drives it. Right. And he's the whole reason it kicks off, and the only reason they're able to open it. The
only reason they survive.
Right. So Stargate Universe comes after BSG makes its debut, and they realize, like, wow, like actually sci-fi people will tune in and pay attention to like a little bit of a darker adult story. Like there's a little bit more nuance to it, and it's not just this like happy-go-lucky. Because forever sci-fi TV was ruled by the Stargate, which was like, hey, what's going on, dude? It was very like almost tongue-in-cheek sci-fi.
And almost formulaic,
super
like the original
formulaic,
Star Trek. You got to wrap it all up in one episode.
For sure. And the other chip. The how many?
I can do a good one here.
Oh God, that should be on a commercial. You should do commercial work.
Good God, that was delicious.
So
Yeah.
post
Doesn't it sound yummy?
BSG, the Stargate people, whoever Paramount, whoever owned there, I don't know. So let's off of IMDb. Trapped on an ancient spaceship billions of light years from home, a group of soldiers and civilians struggle to survive and find their way back to Earth. So what I thought about that was cool. Like episode 1, not giving away. This is not a spoiler alert. Not giving away anything.
Hey, so when did the series happen?
It was 2009 to 2011.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
Well,
Yeah.
we're hoping that we're directing people to actually go watch this for the first time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I want to check it out.
Yeah, and I've been bugging Ron and Ginger for like 2 years to
And
watch.
I've actually heard from another friend, another buddy that said this was the best. Was really not like the other Stargates, but was
No, the other
was
Stargates
superior
are
by
hokey,
far.
tongue-in-cheek. I tried to go back and watch Atlantis. Oh, what a beating of like the
So
ultra
was
clean
that-
cut.
is-
Was
are
that the
you
one with the? Or was it the original that had the black dude with the?
That's the original.
the honk?
with the things on his face. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the original.
So Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
So
Boom, boom.
would you say somebody could start off with the series and be okay?
There's no need. I really think maybe it helps to understand what the previous series has been about. I went into SGU. I had never seen the other series. I was a super huge fan of the movie, so I understood what was going on. The first episode, they set it up as there's a base that they have that is under attack by some aliens force. I have no idea what it's about, and they have to escape randomly and connect to a Stargate on the far side of the universe. Maybe on the far side of the universe, not the far side of the galaxy, but universes away. They randomly have to connect to escape this onslaught, and they have no idea what's on the other side of the gate, but it's much better than exploding in a fiery death of what's going to happen with their base. And that's how it starts. Literally, the first 5 minutes are them ejecting from the other side of the gate. I don't even know if it shows more than a minute and a half of like what's on the current side to where they're going to eject to. And then they're on
It sounds like Voyager a little bit.
Yeah, Star Trek. I was going to say
a little bit in terms
sounds
of it
Voyager-ish.
is a very well-rounded, cohesive group of combat and scientists.
Chakotay, engage Chakotay.
So they find themselves on an alien ship. So they've transported galaxies away.
Right.
Right? It's important that the listener understands the difference between galaxies and the universe. They transport galaxies away. They're on the far side of the
really
universe.
far on the other
really,
side of
really
the
far
universe.
away. And they're on a ship. And that's where it takes off. And they have to figure out what's up with the ship, what's the mission of the ship. It's just flying across the universe, what's going on. So it has a very dark tone to it. It has a very survivalistic instinct tone to it because the military guys don't know anything. Like military guys are coming and we shoot shit and we blow stuff up, and the scientists are like, why don't we understand
hold
this
on
stuff
before you blow that shit
before
up.
we blow it up? Let's figure out what's going on. And it has the guy from, I really like this guy, and he's on a series now that I'm not a super huge fan of, but Robert Carlyle, who was in Trainspotting. Robert Carlyle.
Was he Bigby in Trainspotting?
Yeah, he's the crazy guy in Trainspotting.
Yeah, Bigby.
Wait a second. Could you clarify crazy guy?
Well, he's the little dude that wants to run around beating up and killing everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So he's actually on now, like Once Upon a Time, which seems like a very, maybe Ginger likes it. It's very like
Wow.
aimed at the housewife.
Wow, talk about casting shade on somebody. Ginger just got thrown
Under the bus.
under the
Not
bus.
even here to defend herself.
Good. That's the best. That's the best way it should be. If she wants to defend herself, she should show the fuck up.
Hey, she's helping our daughter with a school project. She's
Sounds like a very poor excuse.
doing good mama stuff.
Huh.
So anyway, Robert Carlyle is the scientist, And I'm going to jack this guy's name up. Luis Fiera is the military guy.
Gaius Balthasar.
Gaius Balthasar.
No,
And you
just
might
Baltar.
know him off of, he did, and I watched a couple of the episodes. So post Stargate Universe, he did NCIS as Metro Detective Nick Burris. Then he was on the LA Complex. I don't know what the fuck that is. He was on Rookie Blue, which looked terrible. He was in Breaking Bad for a while. And then he did Motive, which is actually a fairly decent TV series. And it has, what's the actress's name? Let me click over here. The actress's name is Kristen Lehman. She's Detective Angie Flynn.
Lehman Brothers.
Yep, of the defunct trading organization formerly known as Lehman Brothers. She's Canadian. God dang it, and he is too.
Aren't they always Canadians?
I know half the actors, and
Sci-fi
actresses-
series
Canadians.
actors are always Canadian.
But you'll notice he's been in a lot of stuff, and I do watch. What is the Canadian TV? They have like a BBC. I'll look this up.
The Great White North Network.
No.
Well, and that's funny because the Canadian government subsidizes a lot of animation, a lot of entertainment series,
Most countries do that.
but they subsidize it at a large percent. So it makes them
That's
very
U-Bowl, because he's German, gets like half of his money from the German government.
Yeah.
And that's how he's able to make movies.
Vancouver has a huge production, and they're like Hollywood North. I would say.
Yeah, they kind of are.
No, not a joke. And that's why BSG was made up there and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that being said, even though it's a lot of subsidies, they have a lot of really good houses up there. So
Yep, as well they should.
yeah,
As well
And
they should.
healthcare.
Obamacare.
Socialists. We should probably nuke them back into the Stone Age.
Thanks, thanks, Obama.
So Stargate Universe, you should watch it. It is darker. It is more of an adult take.
Good.
Ron, fill me up.
It is a little bit of romance breaking out on the podcast here.
I just wanted some Greek chips.
That's how it always starts.
It's always about the Greeks.
So
Ron is going to finish his handful of chips before he gives me some
I cannot
chips.
give you chips until I finish my own handful.
Ron's an American. He's not Canadian. He's not a socialist organization.
I am from Quebec.
So
all about
Stargate Universe,
USA.
you guys should check it out, because I know that once you get 3 or 4 episodes in, you're going to be like, holy shit, how have I gone years without watching this? And I'm kind of dumb, and I need to catch up and watch it.
How many seasons ran?
2 seasons, it gets canceled.
Oh, well, perfect.
40 episodes.
Firefly.
Wait, no, here's the thing. It gets canceled because your typical crew that comes over from Stargate,
Where they did the cheese.
French people.
Surrender, cheese monkeys.
So they come over expecting it to be the next Stargate episode, the series, and they're like, "Oh no, Stargate is all happy-go-lucky, and that guy from MacGyver, and it's all like, hey, it's all good.
I will take a paperclip, a match, and a rubber band.
and I will pee on it, and I will get my way out of
At
here."
the end of the episode, we're all one big happy family.
And look at my
Everything's good.
mullet.
Party in the back, business up front.
Yeah. So
Ron?
it's well worth watching. And I guarantee you give it 3 or 4 episodes, you're going to be hooked, because the story is so rich. You don't understand what the characters are going through. And visually, I think sci-fi wise, it's one of the coolest effects things that's been out there. And so there's one of my favorite sci-fi scenes of all time. They're between galaxies, and they're basically the ship that they find themselves on. Oh God, that sounds good.
That was a good one.
The ship that they find themselves on is hopping from galaxy to galaxy, and between galaxies, the engines shut off, and they don't know why. Everything's up in the air. Wait for it. Wait for it. And they're looking out through their main like observation deck, and they're light years away from another galaxy. But that guy, it's a whirlpool galaxy, much like where we live today, and it's the perfect
Milky Way.
distance for them to look out into awe of that galaxy and awe of the universe. So there's all this stuff going on. I highly recommend you
Kind of like
watch
the
it.
scene at the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Sorta.
So, what did? Because you watched both seasons. When you got to the end of the second season, did you feel like, man?
I was horrified that it got canceled. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
So I had not paid it, and this is much more, or much before. This is probably 4 years ago. Much before I was like, okay, if I start watching a show, I want to know how many seasons it. And this is probably where I learned my lesson. I want to know how many seasons it's got. Is it still on the air? How long am I going to have to wait till the next season? And I burned through, like within a couple of weeks, binge watched totally season 1, season 2. And I got to the end of season 2 where it dies mid-story.
Ugh.
And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This is not that fucking...
But
And I went and I beat up some Canadian people, did a complete hate crime. But then...
Out of spite.
It's so good. I've gone back in the last 2 years, and I've probably watched it from beginning to end at least one more time.
is it like
right.
some of these other properties, like Firefly? A lot of people felt that 13 shows what, and then it's like Buffy with comic books and graphic novels. Did they continue the story in graphic novels?
Not to my knowledge. I think it was the end. And basically they had such a run of Stargate 1, whatever it was.
Oversaturation.
SG1.
Atlantis was on like 7 seasons or something.
Well, it seems like that would be a natural fit to, like, you.
Yeah, Atlantis had 99 episodes.
You enjoyed it.
Yuck.
You enjoyed it so much that they could continue it in other
SG1
media and stuff like that. You know,
SG1 was 213.
I know it went on for fucking ever.
Holy cow.
But what I think it was such a gear shift from their normal base because they thought, like, oh my God, Battlestar Galactica's out there. It's awesome.
Hey, now.
It's super good stuff. Paul is now throwing things at Ron. But I felt like they could roll out something that was much more of an adult, darker story. Wait for it.
Oh, nice one.
And it didn't work with the people that were following Stargate at the time. And would it have come out at any other time, like let's say now, it would have been a much bigger hit and would have had a very long run because it had so much story left to tell.
Well, and two, now, like we talked about in a previous episode, is that there's so many other delivery services out there like Netflix and
Right.
Amazon Prime. They're looking for content. They would have gone, hey, this is a show that's in production. We got cast, crew, all that. Let's just hire them on our side. Keep the sucker rolling. They're going to cancel it, and they're fine. Wash their hands of it. We'll take it.
yeah. And when did this 2 seasons go?
Let me look back here. I got to get back off of realdoll.com.
All the one that he queued up for order.
Genuine.
For only
Oh
$9,000.
my God.
Genuine orifices.
You got to really want to have a lot of sex for the sex doll. If you're going to pay $9,000 for one. Holy cow!
Posable.
It was
Well, they're fully articulated with a what is it from Terminator? A metal endoskeleton, fully combat chassis endoskeleton.
So it was 2009 through 2010.
And see, and that's funny that how much you enjoyed that series, and that's right on the cusp, right before
I know.
Netflix and Prime
Just barely.
started, like
years.
Ron said, like, we'll scoop that up.
I
Thank you very
guarantee
much.
you, knowing you're going to go watch this show and you're going to go, I would have watched 10 seasons of that show.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously I'd heard of Stargate, but I watched a little bit, and it was like, yeah, it's okay.
SG1 and Atlantis, no, it's not. I watched a season and a half of Atlantis. That was after watching SGU because I thought, oh my God, this is so good. Maybe Atlantis was just as good, and it was
Maybe
not.
I missed something there. No, you didn't.
Not so much.
Yeah. So, and I think that sort of loops around to things we've talked about in the podcast, is that I don't get to catch all the shows you get to catch. I don't get to catch all the shows you get to catch.
Hey, Amazon shows that full episodes are available on Amazon Prime.
Sweet.
I'm there.
Yeah. Yo también.
What does that mean?
Me too.
Oh. Is that Russian?
Yo soy menudo.
My pencil is yellow.
Español. Mi lápiz es amarillo.
Mi es Putin, su es Putin.
My pencil is yellow.
Don't call me a punta. Punta.
Putin. Mi es Ukraine, you es Ukraine.
But Stargate Universe, watch it. You're going to love it. Guarantee. All right. I need a drink. I'm totally
pick of the
drained.
week. Pick of the week by Brian Miller. Oh, thank you. I started getting into that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so you should talk about that. I have many more shows as Ate These Chips that I could talk about.
Yeah.
But you should talk about your recent Orphan Black experience.
Your conversion as a true believer in Orphan Black.
Hold on a second. Let me clear my palate.
I'm much more a convert of Orphan Black than I am these chips. They're weird tasting.
It's the Greek. What is it called? Tzadzitsky? I don't know.
Saw Greek, thought anal, bought chips.
Their ancient culture is beautiful, but they're laden with debt.
I just saw Greek yogurt and cucumbers on here, so I thought dill. And I do love me some dill.
What's the deal, Doe?
Hey, dill.
Hold on a second.
Get it together, get it together, get it. Fuck.
Thinking a little.
5,
No,
4,
serious face.
3.
Serious face. Go.
We're rolling.
In our 5.0 with the rag top down so the wind does.
Well done, sir. Well done.
little vanilla ice.
Yeah. Who recently got busted
Yes.
for stealing stuff from the vacant house next door to the house he's rehabbing.
I saw that, but I don't think it was him. I think it was his crew. I think he, like all contractors, hired a shitty contractor,
Maybe. Yeah.
a subcontractor group that went in and like
the
started
one
robbing people blind.
He's the one that got arrested, though. So
He was like, "This isn't true, and I can't wait till the truth comes out. I didn't kill that hooker. I mean, I didn't rob that place.
I didn't hook that killer." And that's the funny thing.
That hooker was dead when I found
Well,
her.
that's the funny thing about. That's funny that you mentioned Vanilla Ice. What is his real name?
Robbie Van Winkle
Van Winkle.
Is that
from Dallas, Texas.
I've seen some of those.
Our hometown.
Where he takes a house and flips it, redoes it and flips it.
Yeah.
With the Amish
And-
people.
And he really knows what he's doing. He's very savvy.
Yeah, he's smart.
You know,
Yeah.
and to me, that whole thing smacked of, I need to get some publicity. How can I do it? Oh, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man. So, I am rest assured that he will come out smelling like roses. He'll be racing jet skis.
I doubt
He'll be racing jet skis before he knows it.
It would be really dumb of him to pull it to do.
I doubt
something
that
like
he did it. I'm sure when the end of the day, it's going to be a subcontractor group that stole the air conditioning unit or whatever from the next
for
door
the
neighbor.
copper.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about air conditioning units. The
Which
house.
hilarity ensues as soon as you say air conditioning units.
Right. When we moved into the house we're living in now, it was built, back at like the mid '90s, and they did not attach the air conditioning units to
Bullshit.
to cement blocks. So people would come through this new neighborhood that was built and steal air conditioning units. Just like, and then there's like the contractor's like, I guess we need to bolt these down.
Make it a little more difficult.
Yeah, because
Of
they
course,
would just come in and it's like da-da-da-da-da-da, pick up da-da-da-da-da-da.
Of course, nowadays there's a lot of theft on those with the copper, like I was saying, and so there's like in commercial applications, if they're not on top of a freaking building where they're kind of out of easy reach for people, if they're out on the side, they have to put cages around those things, now, to keep people from breaking into them and stealing the copper. And
Last couple of years, I'd take the DART train from the Frankfurt station down to Deep Ellum,
right,
and you can see you're up elevated, and you can see on top of businesses, and you're like, okay, that one got robbed of the copper, that one got robbed of the copper.
It's chilled out a little bit, given
The copper prices have gone down a lot.
way down,
Yeah.
like Argentina is and Chile and all those countries that
Those companies.
corporations
Corporations are people, Brian.
same thing.
cranked up their copper production.
Their copper production is so high and they're so dependent. Like China has just mountains of copper that they're sitting on now. So copper prices have come way down.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing, with the whole thing with aluminum prices being inflated. That what was it?
Aluminium, sir.
Yeah,
Aluminium.
What are you?
Wait, is that?
I am British.
You know what Wolverine's made of? No, that's adamantium.
Adamantium.
Same thing. He's like, you can
very
recycle me. And hobos are chasing him around. It's like, hey, you look
Get off me, drunk. You're not melting me down for beer money.
Hey, I got a life too. So it's funny how that the whole thing with copper prices, everything going up, and then they come down, then they're not worth as much, and then I don't have to worry about my air conditioning.
Right,
unit.
nobody wants to break into an air conditioning unit for.
No, nor do I. But
20
where were
bucks.
we going with
I
air
have
conditioning
not
units?
a clue. I have not a clue.
What were you talking about? You started all this nonsense. Let's just all glare at Paul until he remembers what he was talking about.
Come on, Paul. What
Come
was
on,
it?
Paul.
Better call Paul.
Oh, maybe we was talking about.
Yeah.
Speaking of-
if you don't know what the fuck's going on,
Better
call Paul.
Better call Saul. Anybody watch that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you watched it. Did you watch? Are you still watching it, or did you just watch the original episode?
I'm current on it.
Yeah. What do you think?
All 3 episodes you've watched.
give us
all
give us a recommendation, yay or nay, on that show.
I think it has potential, but I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A little slow developing,
Yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they've brought in some characters that from Breaking Bad. So you're like, oh, okay, I can see the tie-in, but the one character, I won't spoil it, that was from Breaking Bad, they brought him in, and he's like, oh, he looks older and fatter. It's like it's supposed to be before Breaking Bad, so it's like I don't know.
I haven't seen it, and
I mean, I've recorded one or two of those, but I haven't watched them.
Yeah, like I've said, I wasn't such a huge fan of Breaking Bad. There was like, I gotta watch Breaking Bad. I gotta get through it.
Shame on you.
Brian is obviously not a true believer.
Will say though that I'm not a huge fan of the spinoff. I mean, the spinoff
Brian is
to
not
me,
huge.
I'm extra
That's what she
huge.
said.
Brian is not huge
What
at all.
I'm trying to think, as you guys were talking, I was trying to think of like, what's the spinoff that I really loved, and I couldn't. You're gonna find this funny.
Joni Les Chachi?
No, I couldn't think of one.
That was the most random thing.
This is a spinoff, and I couldn't think of a spinoff that I love since You're Moving On Up to the sky.
The Jeffersons
From
off
Archie
of Good
Bunker.
Times.
There was an Archie Bunker spinoff.
It was from Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
I always thought Jeffersons were from Good Times. Was it
No,
from All in
it was
the Family?
Archie Bunker.
I think he crossed over to that, but it was from Archie Bunker.
And then the Jeffersons was around for forever. But I was like, what spinoff have I ever gotten into that was like, oh my God. Like, I'm sure you, with being a Whedon fan, right? You got Buffy, Angel, and what was the other one that spun off of all that? There was Buffy, Angel, and something else. He had, I thought, 3 that spun out of that. But anyway, there's just not that many spinoffs that I'm thinking, I'm like, man, that's...
But that's the funny
something
thing,
that's like a not miss.
is that I really enjoyed the Buffy episodes, the Buffy series. Angel, I never really got into it. I watched about like 5 or 6 episodes, and I was like,
you backed off?
Yeah, it's like, it's not the same.
Yeah, so...
Kind of like Joey.
Yeah.
Joey loves Chachi.
Yeah.
Friends, Joey.
Please prove my point in one word,
Dude,
Joey.
That is so funny that, and you take that whole idea that you have.
There's only so much of Nick's rule that really
And
works.
there's a little bit of that with this Better Call Saul, because you take somebody that worked on Friends like Joey, the character Joey, and spin him off, and it's like, maybe not.
Yeah,
and the same thing with Better Call Saul. It's like, I don't know if this is working for me, because I know Brian didn't really get hooked on the series, but I thought Breaking Bad was really compelling from the get-go. I was like, what is going on with this dude standing outside of a crashed RV with his underwear holding a gun?
First episode of Breaking Bad was awesome.
Give it a chance. God damn.
I'm 2.5 seasons in, dude. I think I have.
Maybe not.
Or like
10
for-
best spin-off shows of all time.
10 best.
let's-
All right,
let's-
let's roll. Let's hear these.
Is this off of Bing.com?
This is vitamincm.com.
What?
VitaminC.tumblr.com.
I don't know that they're too far off, though. Oh, this is pretty damn close. Oh, damn, this is a pretty good list. Hang on. So it gets better. Number 10 is CSI Miami.
Oh.
I never really got into the CSI show.
Don't even get us started on.
I hate the CSI shows.
What's
I'm
his
not
name? What's his name on CSI?
Hey,
No,
Miami?
I know.
Hey, Brian,
Could
you enhance?
I was a huge fan of NYPD Blue the first couple of seasons, and so
David Caruso. That's
Caruso, and then he was like,
Kills me.
I'm so
Kills me.
badass," and I loved it.
And he takes his sunglasses off and looks straight in the camera. Gets his voice real gruff.
Yeah. So I thought
That's
CS
because-
Miami was dog shit. Composed but CSI Miami was his conceding like he was not going to make it in films, because he thought like post NYPD Blue he was going to go make it in films, and he was in that one with what was it called, Jade, with
Look at that.
damn it, what's Fuckstick's name that's in all the bad.
Hey, I want to take a little pause down
Forever from
last,
now on, you will know when I say Fuckstick who is Fuckstick.
when is the last time, Ron, have you heard somebody say fuck stick?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's when
that's a mighty long time.
it's my go-to name for what's guy's name from
Get a rope.
do you have Jade pulled up? You want me to do it?
David Caruso. I'm looking.
And it's him and Bangkok.
Oh, that's right. Holy crap! I was looking at David Caruso's Facebook IMDb page. He was in First Blood as one of the deputies of what's his name?
Wow.
The big a-hole. Remember, he was obviously young, 82.
Well, it's like that one actress that was on the early seasons of ER or Grey's Anatomy.
Michelle, what's her name?
The blonde.
He was in Proof of Life too,
and she decided she wanted to be a big movie actress, and then turned out nobody wanted to work with her.
Oh, are you talking about what's her name from the blonde from?
Yeah, and she's just recently made a comeback.
She's in that new NBC series.
Yeah, and
what's her name? She was from Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, and she did this whole circuit of mea culpas.
She is hated in Hollywood because she's such a diva.
Yeah, nobody liked to work with her, and then suddenly she realized, oh, wait, nobody wants to work with me.
I don't know who you guys are talking about.
We are talking about. Hold on. We are talking about what's her name? Come on.
So back to David Caruso. So he left NYPD Blue. He made Kiss of Death with
where'd she go?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Did you just say where'd she go?
And where'd she go?
Dang it!
She's somewhere on the internet. I'll find her.
No, naked girls, get away from me on the internet. So Nicolas Cage is fuckstick. So when I say fuckstick, from now on,
Nick Cage is fuckstick.
You will know
I had
that
no idea that he was going to go that
Nick
direction
Cage is
with that.
fuckstick. Because nobody frustrates me more or is in more of my favorite movies than fuckstick.
Have you ever seen that supercut on YouTube with him in the movies where he just freaks out?
Yes, he's a fucking idiot.
Oh my God.
Katherine Heigl.
Yeah.
And
so Kiss of Death, which was Caruso's first big thing post NYPD Blue, was Sam. Listen, he jumps from NYPD Blue and he's in a movie immediately. And it's him.
Who, Nicolas Cage?
Samuel Jackson, Nicolas Cage, Helen Hunt, Stanley Tucci, Michael Rappaport, Ving Rhames, on and on and on.
Did you say Helen Hunt?
It was a fucking bomb. And then he went on and made Jade. And then it was nothing. Oh, shit. I'm on these couple of CSI Miamis and CSI TV, or CSI NYPD Blue, whatever the fuck. And then he went on to CSI Miami's. Then next to nothing.
As the lead, yeah.
Yeah, next to nothing soon after 10 years on CSI Miami. What a great TV actor who thought he was a movie actor but was not, and ruined his career and left one of the greatest shows ever. NYPD Blue is phenomenal greatness if you've ever seen all those episodes. And he went on to CSI Miami for 10 years to be the guy that would take his shades off at the most apropos moment and go, I think I can figure out who killed this person.
Well, and I think that's the funny thing is that...
No, it was a much more corny, snappy line.
Well, he'd have to shoot off his 45 a couple times.
And eventually there's a whole internet meme built around the whole shade thing that Brian's talking about, is that say a line, do something, take off the shade, and then they do a big pullback. and it's every time I see those, I was like, that's a little piece of your soul, brother.
Yeah, so here's David Caruso's IMDb. His low-key intensity, deep voice, somberness, pale skin, puffy-eyed face, and cropped carrot,
hold a
red
second.
hot. What?
Here's the hate-o-meter from Brian. I can feel. Wow, it's like. Whew.
Oh, okay. Let me deliver a good David Caruso line from CSI Miami. I think this would be one. Wait, what's his character's name in CSI Miami?
Ass face.
God damn it, Brian. Nearly made me spit up the Gentleman Jack.
Don't do the spit up the Gentleman Jack. We're not doing spit takes.
All right, let me do one here. Let's see if this will work for him. He takes off his sunglasses, looks straight at the camera in his gruff voice. You know what they say. You lie down with the devil, you wake up in hell. Yeah!
Exactly, terribleness. He did 1.5 seasons of really, really good acting on NYPD Blue. Thought he was much too big for his drawers, and has done shit since then. Bunch of terribleness. Like, I think that, like, as if you were going to become an actor or a director or whatever, like, you should wait till year 5, and then you should reevaluate. Like, in the first 5 years of my career, has it done anything that's worth a shit? It's okay. It's, I shouldn't get more bigger than my britches, and I shouldn't do stupid stuff. I think that's a good policy to pursue.
Caruso has nevertheless earned cult fame for his slick demeanor and deliberately slow speech patterns, reminding one of William Shatner's heady methodological approach to Captain Kirk, known for his deep, dry tones and parade of droll one-liners.
I don't think he has slow speech patterns. I think he has trouble remembering his lines.
So here we go. First image, I did a David Caruso meme internet search on Google. So here we go. It's usually a 4-frame thing, like I say in this meme, this cartoon thing. I'm going to take a hot shower. It's like a normal shower, but with me in it. So, really, he says, if Carl takes one of those, does it make a hot Carl? Yeah!
What a pump.
So, and it's a 4-panel meme, all of them, and it shows him taking his sunglasses off, and he still has sunglasses on.
Right. Yeah, he's taking one off.
So he has a pair of sunglasses in his hand, and still, so
what a douchebag he became. I'm not even really sure how we got onto kicking David Caruso in the balls so thoroughly.
Here's another one.
Although,
here's another one.
He still needs another hour or so of kicking in the balls.
Knock, knock. Who's there? David says. Say, take one step closer, and I will lactate on you. Oh, shit! And then it's the Joker's face from, yeah! Jesus Christ.
Paul's cracking himself over there.
I know. And that's why we love Paul.
I could do this all fucking day.
Paul, for those of you who don't know, Paul will always send us via email some type of internet meme or a little GIF or pic from the internet. Always to brighten our days and at the most opportune times.
That's right, because who needs Facebook when I have email?
Right. Well, and then the thing is, Paul's been doing it way before Facebook ever came around.
Yeah, you are like one of the inventors of what Facebook currently does
right.
without like ever getting credit / money or anything good or positive in your life based on what social media has become.
Who needs Al Gore when you have Paul Allen?
Right.
Did you hear? A kid froze to death in the school's freezer. Well then, I guess he was too cool for school. Yeah!
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's...
So that's the meme. There's the meme. It's dad jokes, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
Which I've, recently in the last year kind of realized I'm going to be a king of dad jokes. I try to be funny around my kids, and I can't be funny like I'm going to be funny around you guys. I have to say stupid stuff.
Right.
And they just look at me like, God, you're so dumb. And I'm like, yeah, right.
I know your oldest especially, you're probably doing that, thinking that now. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Brian, you're so dumb.
Okay, so I got a show that it's 3 seasons in, and you guys should totally watch this. And so I'll go, why? I'm gonna start with a little bit.
Have you watched all 3 seasons?
I have watched all 3 seasons.
Okay, lay it on.
No.
And I'm going to tell you why you should watch it too. I'm going to start with...
What was that?
I'm going to start with... That's none of your fucking business. I'm going to start with why I got initially attracted to the show and what my initial thought process is before I started watching this show. Like, I've been there, done that. I really should start far away from this. So the show starts Matthew McFadden, which you may or may not be familiar with. Probably not. Because you don't watch a lot of British TV or movies.
Oh, you said, and last couple of podcasts, you said you have 70 BBC shows.
And I do not exaggerate when I say that at all. So Matthew McFadden he came to my attention, and I love this movie. And
is it a movie or a series?
The Ripper Street is the series I'm talking about. So the movie, I think initially he came to my attention in a series called MI5, which was a BBC series that started in 2002, and it ran through 2011, but he didn't make it all the way through that. So he was in... Are you eating chips or choking on ice?
Ice.
Is it
both?
So Matthew McFadden was in MI5, the TV series. Wait for
Those
it.
are chips.
And so I loved him in that series, but I think initially, oh my God, there's someone I'm just looking through like what he was in.
He was in one of the two Grindhouse movies, Planet Terror, and
he was. But my first introduction to him was. I'm just dumb for this book.
He's tearing up the world.
I'm dumb for this book. So you probably have not seen, and I've read the book probably over the course of my life, maybe 7 or 8 times. But have you guys ever read or seen Pride and Prejudice?
No.
You have read or seen it? Paul, shaking your head and choking on ice?
Yes.
Read or seen the movie?
Yes.
Both?
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. So I love this movie. I mean, Jane Austen, I think there's a reason like certain things like stand the test of time, right? Mm-hmm. And Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, I've actually read the book probably 3 times now. It's not a really long book. It's phenomenal. And especially for its time, it was fairly groundbreaking. And then if you look back at it now, I think it stands the test of time because so much dumb stuff has been written about.
And
love.
that was Victorian era, right?
Yeah. So I don't even think. I think when she wrote, if I remember correctly, I think when she wrote the book, she couldn't even advertise that she was a female and write it. She had to do a pseudonym or put it in her desk drawer until she was successful on other projects, I think, and maybe she rolled that out. So I'm a big fan of the book. Big fan of the movie, and the director was Joe Wright, and he really translates.
Uwe-Boll.
And
he got the first option, and then they decided it wasn't.
He's like, they watched the first take. He did a Vizzy thing on Pride and Prejudice. Like, why are people killing people? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Could you imagine him doing a take on that? Could you imagine?
I would love to see it. It would be unbelievable. So anyway, that movie stars. If she ever goes missing, it was me who abducted her. Keira Knightley.
Oh yeah. God. She is a very attractive lady.
My God. Can you mix up sexy with smart more and get her? I don't think you can.
Did you see that little bit on Pirates of the Caribbean where they talked about because she pushing everything up? And
the Photoshop.
Not a whole lot there.
No, they said that they said that it wasn't Photoshop. It was practical. They went in and painted in, dark.
Give her more cleavage than she has.
Yeah, and she was very up front. She said, "I have nothing."
Well, you can Google it really easy. If you look at the Pirates,
can I really?
Yes, you can.
Maybe not on your internet connection. Your Wi-Fi sucks, bro.
Okay, so if you Google her pictures in Pirates versus the pre-Photoshop, she's flat-chested, and then they make her to look really big-boobed and all that stuff. So anyway, fantastic movie for Pride and Prejudice. But anyway, that's where Matthew McFadden first came to my attention, and then I watched him on MI5, and he was also in the movie that was about the. Let me scroll down here. That was the Frost-Nixon debates.
Frost-Nixon, yeah.
He was in that, and he was really, really good.
He was in the remake of Robin Hood with...
he was the Sheriff of Nottingham.
And
one of my favorite books, and I think I talked Paul you into to read... Didn't you read, based on my suggestion, The Pillars of the Earth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that whole
Yes.
series, like he was a star in the TV miniseries for Pillars of the Earth.
I haven't seen the miniseries, but the Pillars of the Earth and the book that came after, Ken Follett, right?
Yeah, Ken Follett, and they made a mini HBO or somebody else made a miniseries of the second book too.
Yeah, the books are amazing.
Oh, the books are phenomenal. Pillars of the Earth is like probably if I said I bought a book that I was fairly shady on, and by the end of the book thinking like, wow, I just read one of the best books I'm ever going to read in my life. Pillars of the Earth is probably on the top of that list in terms of expectations versus what I got on the other side.
Yeah, because I know your taste in books and things like that, and so I got that book off your recommendation, and it was great.
Because I think I actually borrowed from you the second book.
Yeah, because you recommended the first one, and then I was like, oh, I got the second. Here you go.
I'm trying to remember what the whole series was called. Anyway, so Matthew McFadden starred in all that stuff, and all that leads up to Ripper Street. So Ripper Street takes place. It starts off with the year, I think it's approximately a year after the murders of Jack the Ripper have occurred and have passed.
Right. Jack the Ripper is no longer
killing.
Right.
And then the first episode of Ripper Street starts off with a copycat killer who's rolling out like doing murders that sort of kind of are reminiscent of Jack the Ripper.
The second book, Ken Follett, was World Without End.
World Without End, which was fucking phenomenal as well.
Yes. Sorry.
No, that's good. So, the first season is kind of him, and he was one of the primary investigators on Jack the Ripper, and the first season is about him dealing with it and how he's going to come back to and I'm a big fan of cops and detectives and the entire police force, detective, all that stuff that's kind of spread all over the world is how, London was one of the first big cities, and they were like, how do we deal with, we got 1.5 million people here, they're all doing crime, and how do we deal with that? So that your first professional police department was developed there, Scotland Yard was developed there, all because it was the first huge concentration of people, and they had to, develop a way to go about all this stuff and have all these people there and still be able to maintain like law and order. So it's a little bit of CSI in that he has an American doctor that's in town, which you don't know, is he a good guy, a bad guy, but he's been a Civil War surgeon and he kind of knows all this stuff backwards and forwards. And so if a murder occurs, he can kind of come in and provide the CSI aspect of it, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of beautiful women involved in it. Now, what I really, really like about it, at the end of the day, it's phenomenally well written. So if you think about what I like about around Deadwood, like why I like it, because Milch brings like a Shakespearean tone and verbiage, and what the characters are saying and their actions is very Shakespearean type. Like Ripper Street brings that same thing to the detective genre, where it's like he's the ultimate good guy, McFadden, and he's trying to push his way forward, but at the end of the day, he's finding that in order to solve these crimes, he really does have to get down in the muck and kind of drag the shit behind him, and he's a very like stand-up guy, but his wife is like, fuck you, you're never at home, I hate your guts, I'm going to leave you at the end of season 1. And so he keeps kind of pushing forward, but it has this very Shakespearean, Victorian era type deal going on. It's phenomenal. The season 3 I thought was the best season of all.
Is it still going on?
Yeah, I know. Season 4 at some point is going to queue up.
So,
Season 3 was maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Would you say it's a lot like Deadwood
No.
in feel at least? Not
Well,
you know what I mean is.
In terms of like, it wants to be a little bit highbrow intentionally, right? Like you can take a show and say, hey, fuck it. We realize like Sons of Anarchy is based on Shakespeare,
Yeah.
but there's no one that's actually gone to the theater and watched Shakespeare that's watching the show, right?
Right.
So to go intentionally highbrow would alienate probably the vast majority of people that are watching the show, whereas Deadwood or Ripper Street, which is kind of in that genre of like it's a little bit highbrow, it's a little bit like well thought out. The characters have distinctive points of view, and they don't have to, for lack of a better word, and this is not the right term, dumb down the verbiage that the characters use and the terminology.
It takes the sort of the story points from like Shakespearean drama and puts it into a Western.
Right, but this
Yeah.
in terms of like where Hamlet for Sons of Anarchy takes Hamlet and puts it into
You're getting culture, but you don't
Motorcycle
know
right,
it.
Motorcycle Gang.
It's you
Ripper
get the story,
Street
yeah.
lifts that same kind of atmosphere and puts it into the detective genre, right? If that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. And it started in 2012, so 4 seasons.
It's 3 seasons in. Let me click back here. I'm on the Pillars of the Earth. Ripper Street. It's been on. It's got 3 seasons: 20 or 12, 13, and 14. And it stars. And I really like the cast. I'm a big fan of McFadden. I think, like, if you've seen, which you said you have, if you've seen Pride and Prejudice, just like how like controlled he is, but at the same time he's able to radiate a lot of intensity. It has Jeremy Flynn in it, who plays in Game of Thrones. He's Bronn in Game of Thrones. He plays McFadden's sidekick. It's got Adam Rothenberg, who is Captain Homer Jackson, who plays the American transplant CSI guy. Mayanna Burning, who sounds like a venereal disease.
Right, exactly. Miami burning. Well, here's some ointment.
Penicillin is Mayanna Burring plays the one of the lead females, and she is so smoking hot.
Is that like Mississippi Burning?
Mississippi Burning. That's her brother.
I think we have.
Miami Burning,
I think we
Mississippi
have an
Burning.
ointment for that.
And Clive Russell, who you may have seen in some other BBC type stuff. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that's been in. You have seen that. You probably haven't seen enough BBC stuff to know these other characters. But it's highly recommendable. It's very much in the vein of like, if you were to take Castle or any of the other American TV shows and serious it up a little bit, and take it kind of to the next level and stop it being about, oh, is he going to make out with her this weekend in this episode? If you took it along, like, is he going to... Because Matthew McFadden's character is super sacrificial. Like, he keeps meeting women that fall in love with him, but...
All these women,
he
my
pushes
God,
on.
they love
He
me.
basically has to say, no, I can't, do the nasty tonight because I got to go figure out who murdered X, Y, and Z.
Because this is a series, and I'm actually
Yeah,
not,
like-
We've
not
got to
that
string.
into you.
We have to string this along.
I gotta get renewed.
I think it's funny that you say that because you've talked about it in previous podcasts that you could recommend 70 different BBC shows, and everybody talks about AMC. Oh, look at the programming they're coming up with and stuff like. You look over to the BBC, and they have been doing this in and out.
So between BBC and BBC America,
they have a tremendous commitment to quality shows, and you can say a lot of that for British broadcast series and things like that for decades.
well, for sure. And I think they've done enough of a job. Like a lot of there's 2 things. So a lot of the shows that have been on HBO have been partially produced and or star a lot of people from the BBC, like Rome on HBO is one of my favorite series of all times, co-produced and executed by the BBC. So in America it showed under HBO's flag, and England it showed under BBC. Great cast, great writing, great storytelling. Didn't really hit home with the hit HBO. It's got to be a hit. So I think after 2.5 seasons, it moved on. But Rome, phenomenal series.
Well, wasn't one of the main characters in Rome the guy who's a main character in Grey's Anatomy now? The redhead.
Yeah, and I have not. I have to admit, I have never once watched a second of Grey's Anatomy.
I believe that he's a Scottish
Kevin McKidd,
a Scottish actor, and
he's phenomenal.
He is he was amazing in Rome, and
he's in Grey's Anatomy.
And you look at AMC's The Walking Dead, Michonne, Rick,
right?
A big portion of their characters are either originally British or British based. Maggie. She's American based, but she is actually from England.
And I loved Rick. I loved Keira Knightley's movie. What is the one with her and Rick in it?
I did not know they did a movie together.
They did a movie together.
But it's so funny.
And he
every time
was so in love with her, he fucked his best friend over for her.
Well, of course. But that's a funny thing. Every time you watch the Talking Dead afterwards, it's like half the cast.
I know when they start talking,
is British.
Wow.
It's like, is anybody American?
So, Love Actually is the name of the movie.
Oh, okay.
You probably have seen it. But Rick is the guy that is friends with the person she's engaged to and gets married to, and he shoots all the video, and then afterwards she sees like the video he really shoots for himself, which is about how in love with her he is. It's a very sad story.
Yeah, that's
so. Kevin McKidd is the Scottish. I don't know if is he Scottish.
I think he's Scottish. Yeah.
So he starred in Rome.
It's not Scottish. It's crap.
It's crap. Or from.
Do you not hear my brogue?
In being Scottish is shite. From Train Spotting. So like he was in. So I really really liked him in Rome, and he moved on to a series that I sort of kind of like called Journeyman. And let me read you guys the thing for Journeyman because it's a little bit difficult to understand. A man travels back in time to help people in trouble. So he was living life.
Wasn't that called Quantum Leap?
It was called Quantum Leap. It was called New Amsterdam. It was called, now they have another one called
Loopers.
Whatever. But Journeyman was actually a pretty good, it was okay, but he got caught up in, it's like a CBS thing, right? Which means if you haven't seen New Amsterdam, which is helmed by, let me click over here. It's the best of these genre. Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Nikolai Ceausescu.
Yeah, who is Games of Thrones guy. He plays Jaime Lannister.
Oh, okay.
Right, so you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So he actually...
He's the sister stooper.
Yeah, he folks his sister. Like all Europeans are banging their sisters and stuff. That's what they do. He was actually in Oblivion, which is one of your favorite movies.
Watched it again last night.
Did you spank it while you watched it?
No, Jen and I watched it together because she wanted to understand it. But she's like, I'm not sure if I fully understand this movie, so I had to sit with her and explain it to her.
He was in a movie or a TV thing that was only released on, what was the name of the service where you used to be able to go in, it wasn't Hulu, but you used to be able to go in and watch like online, like Saturday Night Live episodes and stuff like that. I can't remember. Anyway, the
Pirate Bay.
The name of the series was called Virtuality. And so here's the thing. 12 extremely talented men and women have chosen to become part of the Phaeton mission, a 10-year trek to explore a distant planetary system in order to endure the stress of being confined in their high-tech vessel. The crew passes the time using advanced virtual reality modules that allow them to take on various identities.
Jesus, dude.
But as the ship approaches a critical phase of the journey, a deadly flaw is discovered in the virtual reality system,
And the flaw
It becomes the sex
forcing them
holodeck.
to question
and the
if
flaw-
someone on board might be a killer.
And
So it
the
was
flaw
only
is
done-
called your mother.
It was only done as a pilot, and it was done for FX or
No shit,
Fox,
right?
and they killed it.
Yeah.
But it was Jamie Lannister, and it's really, really cool.
What's
If
the
you
name
can
of
virtuality, if you can find this online
Sounds familiar.
via Hulu or whatever, I highly encourage you to watch virtuality. It's really cool.
Because I do not doubt the veracity of what you're saying, that it is very cool.
Are you doubting me, or you're
as far as how many words you threw out in that elevator?
No,
as far as what you read off that elevator pitch. What the fuck? I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's
which is good. You don't need to just fucking do what I say.
Yeah, and that's why it never did anything more than a pilot, because
You lost Paul there.
yeah, so they're sitting there as executives saying,
I like money.
"I will see you later."
The pilot, if I remember correctly, actually never aired on TV
Exactly.
because it was too awesome.
That's because it had too many words.
So what I'm saying is you should watch Ripper Street.
I like money too. We should hang out.
So one of the things I think that, and I'm a huge history buff, without a doubt. So the BBC, these are things that I'm going to talk about in future podcasts, with Ripper Street, has done, with BBC and BBC America, has done a pretty good job of, so Copper, which is about the Irish cops in New York.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
It's really, really good. It's BBC America. Cough drop?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Copper drop.
Copper.
Copper damn near killed her.
Ripper Street is in right after
London.
the Jack the Ripper stuff, and it thank God at the end of season 1 rotates away from the Jack the Ripper thing and goes on to other stories. But
Well, it was called Ripper Street.
It's like,
The theory-
Jesus, how many
Well,
women can I murder?
which is what's bad in naming your series
Some of
something
the
that's like
prostitutes
really
are old.
specific. By the start of series 3, it has nothing to do with any of that stuff, right? So it's Ripper Street is the name of the show. It has nothing to do with that. It is literally like that Industrial Revolution. London was a shitty place to be during that time period, and the cops are trying to beat skulls and figure out who's killing people and move on down the road. So it becomes much more about that. Like, how does this city and this little area of London, which is called Whitechapel, how does it progress? Now, BBC,
not White Castle.
not Whitecastle, with
Their sliders are delicious.
Yes,
So
they are.
BBC has another thing called White Castle, which is during the 50s and not
That
White
was very
Castle,
prophetic, Paul.
Captain Segway here.
Whitechapel, which started in 2009, which is a detective story about, and I think it's set in the 60s and 70s. It has 4 seasons. Really cool, but it is a very much updated in the same area that Ripper Street happens, like hundreds of years earlier. Whitechapel comes back in and kind of shows you like we're still doing the same shit in the same area because people are stupid and they're still killing each other and they're still doing stuff that we have to come in and break up as a crime unit.
So,
really good shows.
So these are all BBC, right?
Yep.
Are there sub-production houses that are doing it, or is it all just straight BBC?
Straight BBC. So it looks like Whitechapel, I think, is on Amazon. I think I actually watched the first 2 seasons on Hulu, and Ripper Street is on. It says it's on Amazon, but that may mean that you can pay for it. But the first 2 seasons were on Netflix, which is the first 3 seasons. I'm sorry, were on Netflix, and that's where I watched it. Looks like Ripper Street is all on Netflix, as it only has 3 seasons, and Whitechapel is 4 seasons on, and I could go on about Whitechapel, and it's got a bunch of actors in it that are from other shows, BBC shows that I watch. But I just want to kind of juxtapose that in that you roll forward 100 years, and they can still make a show in the same neighborhoods that are still investigating the same stuff because people are dumb, and it's still going on there.
Well, and there's especially with the British series, there's a lot of cross-pollination with actors and stuff like that. And they do a really good job of like moving over to different roles and being totally different characters. I'd really be interested in seeing if how many different production companies underneath BBC are involved with, because you have like HBO, but you have all these different production houses involved and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it over there. I know that it's definitely different than how they do it here.
Right.
Most of the BBC stuff is like government run, organized, and basically you go to the BBC and say, hey, we have a really cool series we'd like to show. And they're like, okay, show us and talk to, and then they show it on, and it may have become a little bit more capitalistic over the last couple of years.
But there's still different production houses that are independent that are bringing programming to the BBC. You know what I mean? It's not.
I don't think it's nearly as like that. Like you're thinking about how America is. How there's all these people out there making content, and they bring it to the BBC and say, hey, show it. I think the BBC is really involved, like from the beginning to the end, because at the end of the day, that it is a publicly run and owned, like it's owned by the people that watch it.
Right.
It is much more like involved governmentally, which has its pros and cons. But yeah, he played Rick Grimes was a guy in Love Actually.
I think that'd be something interesting in future podcast to talk about the different production systems and stuff.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about like what you're talking about, because I'm only really guessing about how it turns out and how it goes. But there's no hit factory for the BBC. They don't really give a shit at the end of the day. Like, oh, you got a great hit, you want to run 20 seasons? Well, go fuck off. It's not happening here. Like most of the bigger series are 3 or 4, maybe 5 seasons of 4 or 5 shows, and then they move on.
Yeah. I'll take a look into it, and we'll talk about it in the future.
It's your homework.
Yeah, it's my homework for the day. Because, hits don't happen in a vacuum. Is that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes production value, put in a lot of talent, a lot of work, a lot of money invested in
the American season or way of doing things, yes.
I don't think we're unique from I don't think the British system is that. I think it's different.
A little bit. I think that the American BBC thing is a little bit of a hybrid, but I think that the way the BBC thing, and definitely you can report back next time.
Yeah,
I think it's enough difference that it's not a distinction without difference. I think it is fairly dramatically different from the way we do things here, which is a pure hey, I'm going to go out and create content and shop it around, and hopefully somebody picks it up.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting thing to look into.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, because I totally agree with you that British broadcast produces a lot of really great content compared to the United States.
When you think about India, what just goes out to the general, the general public, where I feel like 55% of what comes over the free airwaves here in the United States is CSI related,
or reality TV, Bachelor, American Idol, whatever.
Horrible of horrible.
Oh yeah, it's all reality based TV.
Although it is on the decline. Thankfully, on the decline.
Well, and they found that there was a shift to that because the reality based TV started primarily in Japan because that's where it took off from, and then American media sort of jumped onto it. It's like, this is cheap to produce. It is very topical. It is very...
Damn you, MTV.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Real World.
Thanks, Real World.
Which, whenever I watch any of that bullshit on TV, all I can think of, if you think of the opening credits for the Real World Season 1 is when that cowboy guy goes, "True story." That's all I can think about. Whenever any of this stuff comes on the air, Real Housewives of whatever the fuck,
When
is
people
that
start getting
dumbass
real.
going, "True story."
Well, and but like the whole, I'm glad, like Ron said, it's on a decline now. I went on to this morning. I went on to the Weather Channel to see what the fucking weather was, and they had series running back to back to back. Prospectors, we're up in Alaska looking for gold or something, or some
On the Weather Channel?
Yeah, on the Weather Channel. It's like, you're running. I want to see the weather.
Like the network that formerly used to be about history.
Yeah, but there's, like you said, somebody said it's on the decline now.
It is.
AMC,
now History Channel's rolled back around and has one of my favorite series called Vikings, which if you guys haven't seen it, you guys need to see it. And I'll talk about Season 3 just started last week.
Yeah. The one of the, I think it was AMC, or it was one of the major channels, said that they are majorly canceling all reality-based stuff.
Shit.
Because it is the lowest common denominators. You will end up on popcorn flicks as cheaters or something like that.
10 years from now, we will end up on popcorn flicks.
I think they're finding out long term that the reality-based TV, nobody watches that stuff in reruns. Nobody watches it for syndication. Nobody, it can't go into syndication. Nobody watches it.
It has no value stream. It's just like one and done.
It's a one-and-done deal. And so, but where you produce a quality show, like whatever it is, House of Cards, or,
AMC, Mad Men.
Right, Mad Men. It can live on and on and on and on.
See, and that's the thing that
and make money after money after money.
Well, you look at shows like Honey Boo Boo.
No, I don't want to.
No,
exactly.
You fucking can't. I've never seen a second. You're not going to.
Right.
But that's the thing, is that it has, like Ron's saying, there's no replayability, and you run into the trap that there's some hidden history in these families. Then suddenly, you have to cancel it.
Yeah. Well,
I
think
that was the thing with Honey Boo Boo, is that there came up some stuff with family abuse and stuff with that show.
And she started dating the child rapist guy.
Yeah, exactly, the mom in the show, and then suddenly they had to stop it.
Right.
And nobody is going to ever go back and watch this.
Nobody cares.
No,
nobody cares.
It's disposable. It's disposable television.
It's like my guilty pleasure is the Bachelor.
Why does it always go back to dildos?
Nikki and I watch that because it's like, man, they get some crazy fucking people on there. But I would never go back and rewatch an episode of that ever, because once you watch it, it's like, okay, it's gone.
The shock value is gone.
Well, yeah, and exactly. It's like, oh, he didn't pick Trailer Trash? Okay, great. It's one of those things.
Let's move on.
Well, and exactly, and it's reality TV like Duck Dynasty, any of those shows. I cannot imagine anybody, but man, would you like to go back and watch when they was out in the swamp? And
10 years from now, is anybody going to watch the season 3 of Duck Dynasty?
Right, but it's shows like Rome and things like that you go back. I could watch that. I could go back and watch Buffy. I could go back.
Have you watched Rome?
I have watched Rome.
Yeah,
I watched the first. Yeah,
phenomenal.
Well, that's where I knew that the actor, he went on to Grey's Anatomy, and he was amazing in Grey's Anatomy, and I did not realize that until you hear interviews with him. He has a very definite Scottish brogue.
Well, yeah, he's definitely hiding all that in his acting.
Yeah,
and the two of my favorite TV characters ever was he played. Let me look at the name up. Lucius Varinus, and his sidekick was Titus Pullo. And if you watch those two guys, what I liked about
sound awful like Life of Brian.
TP and
biggest
fuck the TP in my people's front.
TP in my bunghole.
So if you watch the series, it's literally these two dudes that are just fighting day by day by day for their life, and then the weaving in and out of Augustus and all the big players like it centralizes on these two little bitty guys in the big theme. What are you guys? You making eyes?
Scrotum Maximus.
Incontinentia buttocks.
If you add an
Have you met my wife? Incontinentia buttocks. Why are you laughing?
I have teepee in my bunghole.
And the other guy was
Biggest dickus.
biggest dickus incontinentia buttocks.
Thickest foreskinus.
Life of Brian. You can't
Life
get
of
past that. It
Brian.
was good stuff.
It was Michael Palin as Caesar.
And in Rome, his wife was played by, let me see if I can, she was actually the wife in Luther that Greg was talking about last week.
Oh, right.
Oh, what is her name? And somebody I really like out of Rome was James Porfoy. He's the bad guy in The Following, the Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
Nemesis.
Yeah, he's Kevin Bacon's arch nemesis in The Following. He was in some really cool movies around medieval knights and stuff like that. James Porfoy, he was in Rome. Good stuff.
Put it on the watch list.
You should. You should watch Rome. But before that, you should watch Ripper Street. 3 seasons of greatness.
What is Rome running on Prime?
Rome is on HBO Go. So if you have Amazon, you probably have maybe an episode or a series or two.
It's also on either Amazon Prime or Netflix. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe Amazon Prime.
It's Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
it's not Netflix.
It seems like a lot of the HBO content
Well, they have
tends to sort of go over to Prime.
I think that's the only they signed. Like HBO had been extremely stingy with all their stuff, and Lord knows how much Amazon had to pay them to peel off all the stuff that they peeled off and put on there. But I do think you can watch Amazon Prime, and maybe the first 2 or 3 seasons of Rome on there. But
because
there's no way it's available anywhere else.
Yeah, because apparently there is no end to the amount of money that Amazon can spend on stuff. Because
Well, with the 500,000 packages I've had delivered
No kidding.
in the last year, I'm sure myself alone, I've made them $1 million. I think.
Right. Yeah, I'm keeping them in business for sure.
Good gosh! Every day there's a fucking package on the door.
Got one
I just cannot wait
Friday.
for the drone deliveries. I want to see.
It'd be like skeet shooting out in my yard. I will order stuff just so I can shoot them out of the sky.
SWAT.
Boom.
You are invading my airspace.
So you're not on Facebook, Paul. So Ron put on the snowboarding trip thing to Santa Fe, where him, and Michael went out, and we started talking. And in enjoyment of my birthday last week, Ron put in some photo of me with a gun and all my equipment on. We're out hunting.
From our hunting trip.
And the only thing
bring it up.
what is in his verbiage around all the stuff he put on the picture was about shooting buzzards out of the sky and all that stuff. And my retort to him was, no, that was Paul that was trying to shoot buzzards out of the sky with a rifle and almost blew my head off with a shotgun.
Oh my God! That buckshot came nowhere near your.
You
head.
were literally, it went a foot over my head. That's pretty near.
No, it's
I'm
not.
standing there slightly downhill of you as you twist and turn and are shooting at things, and buckshot flew a foot over my head.
Here you
Yeah.
go, Paul. Check this out.
I saw it. I saw it, and it was magnificent. And if I could figure out a way to put a buzzard on my head and then a squirrel on top of the buzzard's head on my head, then
That would be awesomeness.
or. My favorite thing was walking with the squirrel like it was my little buddy, like we're going to the zoo or something.
That should be the episode should be Squirrel Hat,
Yes.
and you need to find that picture of him wearing a squirrel as
where
a
he's
hat.
holding it up over his head.
No,
making it talk.
No, it was firmly planted on my head because Brian saw fit to take that little beast out,
I shot him.
and
I did not wear him as a hat though,
I wore him as a fancy
Squirrel
hat.
killer.
and I ate him with fava beans. So that's it. That's today. It's Sunday. It's 7:27. I've had 6 Jack and Cokes. We've had a lot of drinks and stuff. We've eaten a lot of Greek chips.
Greek Lay's wavy. Greek
We are
Tzatziki.
We are
chips.
so in debt.
Yes.
I need some real food now.
Yes. We paid 557,000 drachmas for today's snacks. All right, that's it. We're out.
Later.
Bye.